go?
I'm ready to go when you are.
All right, and welcome back to
Another exciting episode of the Terrorisk podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Chris Kim. How's it going, Chris? Thank you for joining me on Terrorisk, my podcast.
Good. I feel like every time I do that, it's like you really want to be that guy to say that, the announcer guy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I keep doing the same fucking bit and it's tiresome. You go ahead and announce.
No. I was gonna say I mentioned it because you are better suited for it. Like you need that like white guy with that kind of tonality and that kind of inflection. You know, like the mid-Atlantic. It's called the transatlantic accent.
Mid-Atlantic accent is the.
To do that
thank
better.
you. If I tried or practiced it.
I mean, it's an artificial.
Yeah, it's an artificial accent.
Yeah.
That NPR voice, except I don't have an NPR voice. I have a bizarre, idiosyncratic accent.
No, the NPR voice is some like middle-aged MILF lady with like 4 kids living in Manhattan or something, and she's like deaf in one ear, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Julia Popoff, and I have kind of an off-putting voice, but it's actually quite soothing for public radio." I mean, that's a real person, Julia Popoff from NPR.
It's that they might have someone a bit younger who is some bizarre interracial mix where it's hello, I'm Pradeep Jimenez Montero and
I'm Martha Consuela Mitsubishi.
Yeah, exactly.
From London.
Like they're very heavily showing what their whatever randomly generated character interracial mix they are.
Yeah.
And their name alone, and their 3 names, and you can hear the hyphen in their speech.
Yeah. Fucking yeah. So those. I mean, do I miss it? What would I prefer? Would I prefer this new racially ambiguous radio announcer tonality, or do I prefer like the old school
Wasp?
Yeah, kind of like that waspy. We were just talking about Mad Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to just come out in favor of the latter because they're much better trained and it's more engaging.
Yeah.
Though both are very trained and it's very much a radio persona.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what actually annoys me in NPR. It's actually NPR does a pretty good job, I think. The reason why I think NPR pisses me off a lot less than like watching YouTube videos, because NPR, like their guests and their co-hosts are usually like older.
Yeah, and they get smart, talented people as like genuinely they get very interesting people. It's just that they have a certain official things you're supposed to say, and it's very tedious.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is a continuation. Sorry. Of the difference between, say, NPR in the 90s and conservative talk radio, or even more liberal shock jocks like a Howard Stern.
Yeah.
It's that you have a choice between someone who's loud and obnoxious but actually sounds like a human being, and someone who's so prim and proper and uptight that even if there's a far higher IQ to the caliber of what they're talking about, it's just so fucking irritating. You can either have an obnoxious retard or the most uptight cunt who's also unfortunately very intelligent.
The people that I really, I guess, don't like hearing about from NPR are like the progressive movement people.
Are you telling me you're not interested in a black trans lesbian who is the first X within her field?
Oh God, you just described it perfect. It's like it sounds bad when you put it like that. Yeah, I guess.
Does it sound better when you listen to the segment? Aren't you interested in how this black woman horse groomer is introducing weaves to previously white supremacist stallions on our ranches in America?
Yeah, and that's like that stuff. I mean, it's all right. See, that stuff is really bad, you know, because that has to do with like a living thing. But it's like the stakes are less high when it has to do with like theater or cult or like
I would say the stakes are more high because of how valuable the arts are. That horse could easily just be shot and turned into a steak in France or made into glue. It's a beautiful animal and is worthy of life. It's very majestic. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
However, I find it even more damning when you're burning through all this cultural capital, actual capital in terms of capital, actual money in terms of grants, in terms of What? Fuck me. I'm being retarded. I'm retarded.
No. My intuition tells me that this is probably wrong, but in my mind, it's like this whole. Basically, I want everybody to imagine like when Hamilton first hit theaters.
Yes.
And imagine those producers getting on NPR and having to listen to their whole fucking story about how they came up with fucking Hamilton. And I don't want to fucking listen to this shit.
Yeah. Hamilton's interesting because it's very much the turning point of a bunch of cultural norms in America. I think it still sells out. I don't care for the hip hop within it. It very much feels like a 90s educational rap.
I mean, honestly, there have been cases where it's like I felt the exact opposite, where I really dug it, for example.
But at the same time, I will say a lot of it is very well written. It's not necessarily my thing, but I can see why someone would like it.
Hamilton,
Please go on, yeah.
So the segments that I would like out of NPR, where they do shit like that, it's like the first prominent young black female classical opera singer or something, and then I would hear her story, and like I wouldn't even really give a shit about, like, at that point I would listen to her story, I'd be like, I don't give a shit, I just want to hear her sing and see
yeah,
and she's really good, and I'd be like, okay,
of course, yeah.
See, this is good, because then I couldn't give two fucks, like she doesn't care about like altering it to suit like a narrative for colored folk, but more like,
people of color.
Like she cared about this so much, like she was like, I will transcend my color just to depict this as I.
The same story could be told a lot less irritatingly, a lot more interestingly.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
Yeah, if 80% of it was about her singing, and then 20% of it's everything else, that's fine. But oftentimes over the past decade, it's 80% talking about blah, 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 and like 20% of it's actually her singing.
There's something, yeah. And on this, someone said this quote to me about leftism that I thought was really good. That would actually apply to this, when it comes to, like, say, let me just say it, like, black people engaging with what was formerly like white dominated arts or pieces or genres, right? So there was this saying where there's some leftists that are leftists because of their hatred for the system, and there's some leftists that are leftists for the compassion for the oppressed, and there's like a big difference,
Yeah.
So if you're like, an artist engaging with stuff that was, maybe white dominated, apparently, you're either engaging with this mostly because you either hate that it was white dominated, or because you actually love this that much, even if it was white dominated.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you care about more? Like claiming this art thing for your people, or engaging?
Is it productive? Is it destructive? A lot of times in all these fields, it feels like people really deeply hate whatever they're in.
Well, it's a spectrum to me. I mean, because with
like autism.
Well, yeah, destruction and creation.
Yeah.
Which is like autism, except autism mostly destruction, but like
it mostly doesn't exist. But go on.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll get to that later.
But like, I think when it comes to the black people, when it comes to the black people engaging with the white art, yeah, I mean, I see like...
Do they have some Asian accented person describing it? Because that's even better, where it's just a random mishmash of identity categories.
Yo, I saw the most fucked up TikTok, but I couldn't stop laughing at it. This guy had on Snap, he had like a orangutan Snapchat filter, so he looked like a monkey, and he's like, oh yeah, and when we at the airport trying to get a ticket for a Spirit airline, and now they have employment for the black people. So now the plane goes pew, and everyone just flies right out the windshield. And I'm like, oh my god. It was just like, I was like, this is so fucked, but I cannot, because it was just so degenerate. It was just so funny. But yeah.
Well, frankly, I'm assuming that's like what, a Chinese guy.
No, it was a white guy doing a Chinese accent.
Oh, that's even better.
Black people.
That's even better, actually. That's great. That's fantastic.
So funny. I was like, holy shit. The black people and diversification.
That makes sense, actually. That's a white guy, because he's deliberately selecting all the words that will allow him to use an R instead of an L.
Oh my god. Yeah. So that was really funny. And but yeah, so when it comes to being a colored person engaging with formerly. And what are some formerly white dominated arts? There's polo, like horseback polo.
That's a sport.
Oh yeah. Not a performance art.
There's a bunch of things that are just originally from Europe, and most of the time,
there's ballet.
A huge amount of the time, it's stuff that's really just English, and due to some mix of class or personal taste or what have you, not even outright discrimination that existed. More often, it was some other, not deliberately exclusionary element that made it exclusive to whites, or often just to middle or upper class WASPs.
Well, ballet is fucked up because no matter what argument or rationale or reason you could say, like you'll have some elitist who's been immersed in the ballet world more than anyone else alive, and they'll just say, well, I've been doing this for my whole life, and I could tell you, like, a white dancer will always look more beautiful than a black dancer doing these moves. I'm sorry, like that's what they'll say, and I don't agree with that. But
how much of that is something that's downstream of? I don't even know if that's true. A, B, if it is, how much of it is downstream of the kind of people who are into ballet?
No, I mean, yeah, it's all bullshit. It's all just a form of gatekeeping, in my opinion.
I mean, like, I know ballet's big in Russia. Is it a kind of blunt statement that you'll hear from a Slav, but not from a WASP?
Well, the thing is, in Russia,
or maybe a French are very blunt about things too.
Well, it's actually very interesting because like things like figure skate. I'm a huge fan of figure skating, especially during the Winter Olympics, but like, which is really gay of me, but I don't care. When you think of like figure skating and ballet,
I mean, you have Asian overrepresentation in figure skating, so it works well for you to be into it.
Well, when I look at the mentality of it, and like I look at the way the Russians compete, look at the way the Chinese compete compared to the Europeans and the Americans and the Canadians. Well, the Canadians are actually the best when it comes to figure skating. Like, who knew? But the Russians and the Chinese, it's like the way I see it, it's like when I see like French pairs or French skaters or performers like doing their thing in these classical dance arts or whatever, like it seems like they just want to be the best of the best. It's purely ego based for them and their legacy and who they train and who they've been trained by. And it's like, I've won 13 gold medals in my career, so I'll be damned if my protege is not going to win 14 or some shit like. Whereas for the Russians and Chinese, they're doing it for their fucking country. Like they don't like. It's not about like this Jean-Luc's legacy or fucking whatever, and about
they're doing it out of national pride rather than like a competitive edge, either for their own ego
and I'm not saying
achievement.
And I'm not saying there's no nationalism amongst like the French and the British, and I'm sure they do. It's just
but it's that makes a lot of sense, genuinely, because I cannot imagine a Canadian figure skater saying, I'm doing this for Canada. Like, easily any Russian or Chinese, for sure.
Yeah, we'll out-nationalize them for sure.
French are the only, and even then not really, French are the only ones I could see having any nationalist edge to it. It's just far more individualistic countries.
Yeah, for sure. But, sadly enough, like the top performers are usually those individualistic countries.
What's the I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, are the Canadian figure skaters like the most diverse of them?
No.
Interesting.
They actually have some of the most attractive looking Caucasian ass fucking performers. But I think with Canada, they have nothing else going on except for winter sports, like ice capades and all that shit.
Canada's defining feature is that they're not America. Everything about Canada is about being not America.
And cold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at first I didn't get it. I was like, I saw, because there's two types of pairs figure skating competitions. There's a technical competition.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
With the
wrong pipes.
With the destruction of the British Empire, there is no reason for Canada to exist. Because previously...
They're still part of the Commonwealth.
Right. But I mean, the decline of the idea of the empire
monarchy, yeah.
Like, in 1890, a Canadian in Toronto could say, the difference between us and America is we have the Queen. We have the Queen.
Yeah.
they don't care about the king anymore. They don't care about the monarchy. They don't care about the empire. So the reason why Canada exists is to be America that is still part of the British Empire. You get rid of that connection when you stop caring about singing God Save the Queen. There's no reason for them to be a separate country.
Well, I would say Canada is to Britain what South Korea is to the United States.
Go on.
No, I mean, like, using that analogy, I would be like, yeah. You know, like, I'm saying, like, what you said, if that's, I kind of agree with it. And I would say, by that logic, I would say South Korea is like our Canada.
Yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, yeah. I gotcha. South Korea is the Korea that's aligned with the USA. North Korea is the Korea that's aligned with Russia.
Yeah. So every major empire, that's the deal. They have to have their little satellite across the pond.
Satrapy.
That's what it's called?
Yeah, a satrapy is like the Persian Empire in various points in time in history had like client states or like puppet states sort of on their borders, like a buffer state. And those were satrapies. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Satrapy.
You know, I got to stop watching a lot of like British historical drama because it's starting to make me a little more sympathetic to the colonized. Not sympathetic, but these guys are badass. You know?
No, they are bad. They were badass. A tiny number of guys, a tiny number of the most outgoing guys within the society went out and conquered the world. Or they went out and they took over the administration of the world.
Yeah.
The British Empire is not going in and killing a huge number of people. It's kind of like going in and taking over, parasitizing. They shoot, basically they could shoot like 200 administrators and then they're the new rulers of a place.
Well,
or not even new rulers, de facto rulers, because there's local rulers that they're friends with.
That's true, and it's just like what we do now as United States. But it's like
that they diplomacy checked their way into controlling much of the world.
All right, we're going to take a quick ice break.
Ice break, yeah, sorry.
2 minutes or a minute. All right. Yeah. So what was I saying about Britain? Oh yeah. So a lot of people like to shit on Britain, and I get why and all that stuff. But there was one thing they did right, and here, like, what I'm impressed with Britain, and I'm going to bring up like another empire to kind of compare. Especially after like a period of like extreme expansion. See, before Britain was even Britain, right? It was a war-torn country. You know, you had like warlords of different clans and factions, and basically that whole empire wasn't founded by what we now know as the British gentleman. It was founded by a bunch of fucking ruthless, murderous criminals, like the most ruthless dudes that was able to plunder the most from their like slain enemies. And then like once like all the power was sufficiently consolidated and like enough of the clans died out and there was just the most powerful ones remaining, they were able to get their shit together and actually bring themselves into the modern world. Mongolians couldn't do that. You know, for example, like the Mongolians kind of like petered out after a certain time. China kind of ended up just becoming communist. They didn't really keep their royal family lines intact, you know?
Just to be clear, you're talking about like the Saxons, like Dark Age England.
Yeah.
Like 8th century, yeah.
And considering what they turned into, like that's pretty impressive, especially like even after their period of expansion. But I mean, don't get me wrong, the British Empire is now probably considered like a shadow of its form.
Oh, it's a huge shadow. It's dead, fallen. Large, and it kind of it abolished itself.
It's just
decided politically, it made the right decision just to stop being an empire.
Maybe I'm just impressed that it's probably like the only monarchy that sufficiently held any modicum of power through the Industrial Revolution. You know, Actually, or maybe I'm completely wrong about
No,
that.
that's. I mean,
maybe the real royals are just like transmuted their power into actual modernized corporate interests. And I'm not talking about like just the British royal family. Like I'm talking about like the barons of the world and the dukes, and because they still very
a bunch of people do. The thing about the British Empire is that they had a revolution. England. You know that England executed its king in like 1630.
Yeah.
Yeah, with with the English Civil War.
Didn't they even have their own pope at one point?
Maybe there was some anti-pope, but no. Well, effectively, the British king is the pope of the Church of England, or rather, the Anglican Church. He is the head of the church. But England beat us to having a secular egalitarian revolution, and they beat France to it.
Interesting.
By the time they restored the king, because things were too chaotic under the dictator, they
were like, the Romans did it.
They had a thing where they instituted a like egalitarian, Puritan, Republican dictatorship.
The philosopher king. Well, that's what the concept was supposed to be at one point, which is what I guess Pythagoras was angling for when he was like, we just need a land of philosopher kings.
Yeah, they
Wait, that was Plato. Plato was after Plato. After he saw his beloved gay pimp teacher kill himself in a very comfortable death, I might add.
Oh, sorry, forgive me. England's monarchy exists because they already had a revolution where they ended the monarchy, then they restored it as a figurehead. In the 18th, 19th century, the British monarchy had power, but was very much a figurehead compared to Parliament.
Okay. When was which king was brought back as a figurehead?
Not a full figurehead, but like, let me see. Charles I was the king who was executed by Oliver Cromwell and the Roundheads, or people that were associated with Parliament.
Yeah.
But
1640s. Didn't that also happen in like Rome too?
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. England, and that's one of the reasons why England has so much Rome fandom, much like we do.
Yeah, I agree.
Then they had the Glorious Revolution. I can't remember. I don't think it's
maybe
Charles III or something like. Within 30 years, like 1870 or 1860, England the UK, because it was reformed into the UK at this point, had the Glorious Restoration, which is like the 1680s. That's when they brought back the king, but the king had far less power than before the Revolution, or before the Civil War.
This brings to mind like me, because like I'm looking at the actual framework of the whole dynamic of like you have the best amongst you who has like some kind of sovereign authority, right? And then you take the next 10 best after that one guy to create like a senate or a council or something, and that council has just as much power as the one guy. And that model, like however way you manifest that, whether it's like through an empire or like a monarchy structure or whatever, but some form of that, like where you have a council of like the next best guys compared to the best guy balancing each other out. I feel like that's a standard model to make any organization work, but the only way this could actually work is you have to recognize the expiration date. Like this will work for any organization, but you have to recognize that this organization is finite. But that's I think that's reasonable, because to me, having an organization that'll never die is unreasonable. Everything has to come to an end. So if anything, it might be something worth to purposely lean into. Like, guys, we're going to start a company and we're just going to use this company to get rich. So this is how we're going to do it. Who's the smartest and strongest of us? You lead it. The rest of us will be your board, And then when we get sufficiently rich enough and there's no more money to be made, we say, fuck it, dissolve it, start the next one.
You're future-proofing or designing the inevitable death and rebirth of the organization.
I mean, maybe that's what we're living through on a much grander scale, like when it comes to Rome, then Britain, then us.
all of these things are going for like a universal view of humans or of the world.
Yes, like a larger.
There's a line some leftists will use where they talk about the idea of a nation only being created in the 19th century. For a lot of people, for a lot of countries, that was true. But for some countries like Roman Republic, then Empire, British Empire, China, America, the notion of like a unified nation state exists a long time ago.
Yes.
The British, in 1100 AD, the British, even though they were medieval, they had knights and all that shit, they were thinking of themselves as a country more in the way that America was.
An experiment, but Rome thought that too about themselves.
And Rome did too.
Yeah.
But in 1100 AD or in 300 BC, much of the world did not have that conception of themselves.
But now, in this day, with America existing, because maybe that's what it's building up to. Maybe America isn't the final destination for this. Maybe it's
what if we changed our name to the United States of the world and just presumed that we're going to annex the entire world?
Maybe that's what it was all building up to.
It feels like it would be. That's your one world government, is that America, hoorah, takes over everything.
Well, it was Rome. It was Rome, ho, takes over everything. Yeah. Then it was Britain, chip chip cheerio, takes over everything. And now it's America, hoo, take over everything. Haktua, the world. Yeah.
America, it feels like America ought to be the destiny of the world, because the whole world can't be China.
No, I think the world has to be the destiny of the world. It can't end at America.
You have to be Chinese to be Chinese. You don't have to be American or white or black or whatever to be American.
Yeah, I saw the war movies. In every commando unit, there's always like a Chinese guy who doesn't speak English. There's always a Mexican guy who barely speaks English, and then you have all the other guys.
Not to detract from this, but have you ever heard of Eastern Condors?
No.
It's a Hong Kong action movie from 1987 by, I think, Sammo Hung.
Yeah,
is the guy's
name.
Sammo
Hung.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of Hong Kong kung fu,
the best.
Choreographers said, let's make a Rambo movie. Let's make an American action movie with a lot of guns and explosions and still kung fu fighting.
Perfect.
I highly recommend it to you.
Eastern Condors. Yeah. All right. So the movie that I was thinking of when I said that, actually, and by the way, guys.
Oh, and every single character is a Chinese American. Oh. And they're sent into Vietnam to detonate a weapons cache.
It's like, listen, we need the best of the best we got, but they can't just be the best of the best. They have to be chinks.
Yes, literally, that's the movie. It doesn't. It's because it's like it opens with this scene of like the American troops are trying to raise a flag and they can't do it. They're and the Chinese commando's like, so let's go. Stupid, why? Yeah, and he just uses kung fu to climb up the flagpole and fix the flag. And it's like the American flag is flying because of a Chinaman like me,
dude. You could, but the funny part is, well, it's not even just funny. It's great. You can make this same movie with any, like, you can make it about a squad of Black Americans. Yeah. You can make it about a squad of Latino Americans. Yo, there was recently the most Netflix movie ever made. It's called 888.
Yeah.
It's about it takes place in World War II, and it's about a specialized unit in the army of Black women soldiers.
Oh yeah, that deliver mail.
Yeah.
There's so many interesting World War II stories, but they need to find the one situation.
The one story.
There's Black women who had made sure that the white male soldiers got their packages from their parents.
Yeah.
These brave Black women are delivering white women. These brave Black women are delivering white women's nudes to white male
so that
GIs.
They can keep fighting.
Yeah.
Yo, they won the war, bro.
Yeah.
They won the war. They delivered the prawn.
It's an absurd rewriting of history.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
And honestly, you could make a good story, but it should really be a comedy. And they should be sassy and funny Black women.
They can get away with doing this with World War II because a lot of those guys are dead now, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, who's complaining? Like, you won't have guys saying, I didn't fight.
Well, people complain about less than that, more about the identity.
Yo, how about this? I bet you in 30 years, you're gonna see like these historical revisionist movies about Vietnam. You know, it's good. You're gonna see like
World War II is particularly significant.
you're gonna in like 30 years. There's going to be a Vietnam War movie about a squad that nobody about a lesser known squad of transsexual Vietnamese American soldiers who just happened to be fighting in Vietnam.
Well, yeah, Vietnamese ladyboys who won
Who won the war for the U.S.
Yeah, if only make it so that if only America utilized Vietnamese
No,
ladyboys.
the reason why we lost the war is because they sandbagged our crack commando team
Yeah,
of transvestite
yeah.
Vietnamese ladyboys from America, and they're all from like Queens.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Oh my god. No, what's fucked up is like if this actually happens after I said this, like I would feel responsible. I would feel partially responsible for
Yeah, you should get a writing credit.
I feel like I should go to jail. Like, what the fuck?
Hold on, forgive me. Let me jump back to Eastern Conference for a second. The Dirty Dozen team, most of who die, when they're in Cambodia, they meet these Maoist rebel girls who are sexy anime girls, but they're also like butch peasant warriors. They have like those pigtails and like the rice hat.
Oh god.
It's fascinating to see Hong Kongies use all of these Asian stereotypes. Like the villain, even though he's supposed to be a Viet Cong general, he feels coded as a Japanese pervert. Like he's supposed to be a Viet Cong. He has Tojo glasses and mustache. He has a hand fan, and he just giggles the entire time, and he's an effete sadist.
That's cute. He must have read a lot of Japanese comics.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm right, but it feels like instead of a Viet Cong depiction, they just had like a World War II Japanese villain depiction, which was great, particularly when he started kicking ass at the end of the movie.
You know, here's the thing. Like a lot of people, like. I gotta put this together right. Okay, so honestly, this actually is like in defense of some like white guys who like call like Japanese things Chinese or Chinese things Japanese or whatever. Like in defense of that, the truth is there was a lot of cultural exchange throughout the ages, but there in particular with Japanese media, everyone loved like Japanese comics and art and manga as soon as it was disseminated, able to be like easily spread throughout the whole continent. You know, like everyone loved it. I could comfortably say since probably like at least the 40s or 50s, like all of the Eastern continent was like into Japanese comics and Japanese culture. Probably by that point. I mean, 40s probably way before that too, because by the 40s you had plenty. You know, Americans and Japanese like had a relationship for a long time. I think like the Olympics were supposed to be in Japan around that time.
Yeah, I don't know about the Olympics, but like, yeah, when Japan opens up to the world, there's so much interplay or interaction.
It was very fast. Like it was very
They're
very
the fastest country to industrialize because of their high East Asian, particularly Japanese IQ.
And also the Japanese didn't mind a lot of the Western shit. They didn't mind the clothes. They thought, you know what,
There was an immediate interplay and love between Japanese and Europeans, particularly like French or English.
Yeah, and the Westerners didn't mind the sushi. They didn't. I think it's because they both cultures
are just destined to be together. They just had to love each other when they saw one another.
Well, yeah, probably.
Or because Japanese convergently evolved into whites. These historical, economic, and social dynamics of Japan made them uniquely compatible with Europeans.
Yeah, because they were fucking fascist as fuck.
Yeah,
yeah, like they were totalitarian, fascist, like all about like military, but they did it in a classy way.
Also, Japan had knights and feudal holdings in a way that like even China never did. China was always more centralized. That like Japan and Europe really had like a similar kind of.
Japan had respect for like autonomy.
Yeah,
of
in a way that like
of the mighty. Yeah, like they had autonomy for different respect for autonomy of different rulers, not like as in like autonomy for the peasant. You know, like
yeah. I mean, and like Japan was independently undergoing its own like industrial revolution when it was interacting with Europe and was forced to open its borders.
Yeah.
It wasn't an industrial revolution. It was like an early modern. In like 1840, before Japan opened up to the rest of the world, 80% of the Japanese public was literate.
Also, I
When
think
like Europeans were like at 30% literacy, Japan was at 80% literacy, depending on the area.
who do you think was more religious at the time? The Chinese or the Japanese?
Japanese, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chinese have all the folk traditions, but Japan had kind of. I don't know. I need to learn more about
me too.
Buddhism. Well,
I just don't know much about the Chinese. Like
China has a quality where they have a lot of different folk religions and traditions. And people talk about China being Confucian. Confucian is kind of like
new.
Yeah, and an invention and development of like
I was thinking more like on Taoism and stuff like that. And
Taoism was always like the hippie tradition within China.
And then in Buddhism.
Japan, you have Zen Buddhism, which is like Taoist.
Well, I mean, before that, you had Shintoism.
Shintoism is the traditional animist religious cultural
everything
practice.
has
Everything has a spirit,
which is not very different from the Greeks.
Yeah, but like Buddhism really and they have to my knowledge, Buddhism influenced Japan intellectually, and people will have different rituals, either Zen Buddhist or Shintoist rituals, depending on whether it's like a birth ceremony, a death ceremony, etc.
Yeah.
And a lot of intellectual things like theology, religious philosophy ended up being, it's all Buddhist thought.
Yeah.
The Shintoism was going and like leaving an offering at a traditional shrine in Japan was the equivalent of like having fireworks on the 4th of July or eating hamburgers as American. It was like a cultural tradition.
I also think like, I think it's different. It's a subset of cultural inclination, but I think the Japanese and in the West, like the Germans in particular, I think they're both like, they were very mystical. You know, like Nordics are like what's the word? They're notoriously mystical,
Spacey and just not spacey.
Otherworldly. Yeah. Whereas the Japanese are like that too. The Japanese are very all about mysticism and the practice of things.
Both Japan has a lot of conformism, but there's also a real sense of the individual and of like individual cultivation.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting stuff. But this all ties back to how like
let me put it this way. I've said this before, but birds and bats have very different evolutionary paths. They're very distant from each other.
But
the way their wings work are almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
They both fly through the same mechanics. A bat's wings and a bird's feathers, totally different paths. Their common ancestors so far back as to be unrecognizable. But through convergent evolution, they both ended up looking and acting the same way.
Yeah.
Japanese and Western Europeans had the same dynamic.
Yeah. Japanese are like the bats.
Yeah. Yeah, Europeans are the birds. No, actually, Europeans probably should be the bats, and Japanese are... No, wait, actually, you're right. I don't know. There's Japanese tree bats, right? Yeah. Whereas Europeans, you have the bald eagle.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, this all ties back to how like it all culminates to this the grand experiment, like the civilizations that managed to say like, we created this system where after we conquer you, we don't just kill you, we could actually integrate you. You know, so that was the Romans and the British. Then now it's America. But we don't do it through like colonialism and conquest anymore. We do it through culture.
Those other places did it through culture, but yeah, we do. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go on. You're right. It's more prominent with us. Cultural victory, American cultural victory.
Yeah, it's like we don't have to set foot in your soil. All we got to do is just shoot you videos of like hot American porn, and you're gonna want to be like you're already in it. Like you're in it, baby. As soon as you jerk off to an American porn video, you might as well call yourself a fucking American. The question is, how American like do you have a right to be?
There's the question of this when people talk about immigration to America. I think there's an implicit assumption that the entire world has already been a culture to America through media. Everyone shows up in America partially assimilated. At least there's a theory that that's the case. I'm not sure if it is true. It's partially true.
Maybe. I also think like, you know, what America had going for it because it primarily gains its strength from accepting immigrants. That is a strength in itself. Like, I'm not saying like immigration, like unchecked immigration is good. What I am saying is that no matter what, like immigrating is fucking hard. Like to successfully immigrate, you have to have a lot of fucking willpower. You know, so
I agree. So there's a Darwinian selection effect at play,
which is also works.
It's like when you compare white Americans to Europeans. White Americans are braver, taller, fiercer.
Yeah, and I was maybe this is all that. Also,
have you ever noticed how compare like people from the East Coast to the West Coast? A lot of people from the West Coast really are taller and sturdier.
Yeah, I could believe that. You know why?
Nutrition, it's selection effect of who was brave from the East Coast to go leave the East Coast and go west.
I think it's because they get more sun.
And they get more sun. Yeah, that's true too.
I think it's when you get more sun. When you get more sun, you end up like sturdier. Now, and then you ask, well, what the fuck happened to South America? Like, why are they so fucking like small? Well, I'll tell you what.
They're very squat. They're like dwarves.
Well, what happened was.
So Americans are naturally occurring dwarves.
But the white man came and started like, you know, giving their seed into it and maybe together. Because that's what Latinos are. Latinos are basically like white man came to this land, like the South American continent, and they were like, let's make a whole new people. You know, like,
yeah, they just fucked their way through the entire continent.
It's pretty based, honestly. That's pretty sick.
Yeah. New World fuck tour, the Spanish.
Yeah.
So even though Spain collapsed economically, they had such a huge genetic influence on the world.
Yep,
because you had first mover horny conquistadors that fucked their way through the entirety of Latin America.
It fucking fascinates me. Like the Latin American lineage, like fascinating because they really.
That's all why Latin Americans are natural rizzlers.
Yeah,
it's because their white male ancestors were all Chad.
They gave them all the rapey energy.
Yeah.
The rapey vibes.
The rapey Y chromosomes. The rapey white
that women can't resist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those Latino R1b haplogroups. It's all coming from that Spanish ancestry.
Yep. And you know, like you even see variations of it. Like if you go to Argentina, it's not the Spaniards there, it's the Germans and the Italians. That's why they have some sexy women out there, but you don't want to ask what their grandfathers were doing there in the 1940s. Like
a lot of their population moved before then, but still, yeah.
I want to get me an Argentinian woman. Like they're hot.
I have a former coworker.
I am half
friend.
German and I'm from Argentina. Wow. Like, why are you so attractive? Why is your tongue so long?
I have an Argentinian roommate, former coworker and friend. He is partially indigenous. He actually looks East Asian, more so than his parents.
Oh, okay.
But he's Argentinian. I was talking to his dad once, and his dad said Hitler died in Buenos Aires. And he was like telling me about like how he swears he knows the gravesite of Hitler. And he barely speaks English, he speaks Spanish.
Dude.
Mostly.
That's not an uncommon thing.
No, I know. And it was just very like, when the subject came up, I knew immediately he's from Argentina. He's going to say Hitler died there. And sure enough.
And what's fucked up is that it would sound more ridiculous if you had guys from like other parts of the world saying this, but no, it's the people there. It's not like they make a show, because to them, they probably don't even give a fuck. They're just like, it's some white people drama and there's one white guy from Germany.
No, he wouldn't think of it that way. He took even though he's opposed to anti-Semitism, he took a national pride in Hitler dying.
I'm talking about that guy in particular. I mean, people in Argentina.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the same stance.
I think there's some credibility to the story. It's either Hitler actually went through Argentina or his body double did. Because I'm pretty sure Hitler had body doubles.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
So, like...
a body double would be less insane than him and on this, like, weird, emotional, amphetamine...
And it could have been the other.
Social
It could have been the other way around. It could have been the body double that was like spiraling out in Germany while the real Hitler went to Argentina. It could have been either or. And like,
Oh, I like that. I like that.
and I'm not saying that like, oh, Hitler's still alive or he survived and died in Argentina. I'm not saying that.
Oh, he died at a ripe old age with Ava.
But I'm saying like, if these guys in Argentina said they saw Hitler, and I believe them in a sense. They could have easily seen a really good body double because I believe Hitler had doubles. Or they could have seen the real thing. That's also a distinct possibility. Because if body doubles are real, then it could work either way. I mean, that was like a really good like curve for me. I was like, I didn't even consider that until someone was like, yeah, like if you consider the fact that maybe it was double that died, or it was the real Hitler and it's a double that was seen in Argentina. And it's like, what were they doing in Argentina? Well, Argentina is really close to Antarctica, and what's in Antarctica? Secret Nazi base.
Nazi bases. Or more likely, it was just because it was already heavily Italian and German. Even those in Latin America, it was a natural place for guys to flee to.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, I do believe I do think there is something weird going on in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
I don't know, but it is weird because it's like, when countries are at war, y'all peed up.
I am, yes. I urinated successfully.
All right.
Wait, let me actually grab tobacco. Okay.
He's grabbing his tobacco.
Mind if I smoke in here?
No, I don't mind if you smoke in here. He's grabbing his tobacco. He's gonna pack it in. He's gonna pack it like the fudge of a little Roman boy.
Cowboy.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Mullen was right when he said that gay sex is objectively the funniest form of sex.
Yeah, it's very true.
I mean, there's the thing that made me realize this also, like, I mean, I heard it when on the podcast, but then like I was like, yeah, haha. But then like my ex, she used to work for the CDC, Center for Disease Control, right?
Yeah.
And she had to get this assignment where they had to contact men who reported that they've had to their well, it's not like they reported it. It's like just gay guys. They go to their doctor and the topic of sex comes up and the doctor's like, I don't know, I guess somewhere down the line, like gay guys talk to their doctors about like anal sex. It's like, yeah, I have anal sex or whatever. And apparently that goes in some kind of record. Maybe like having like anal penetrative sex can make you susceptible to like some kind of infections or diseases or whatever. And basically she had to like call up like gay dudes that are like that have had anal sex and ask them about anal sex to like, talk about like some kind of, I think it's like some weird infection or something. And it's just it just makes me think, like, could you imagine being a regular ass gay dude just chilling and all of a sudden you get a phone call? It's like, hi, I'm calling with the Center for Disease Control. We just want to talk to you about this certain infection that could be induced through like anal sex or something. It's like, yo, like what the fuck? It's like, how did you get my number? It's like, well, you have it. You're a patient of Dr. such and such, correct? And it's like, that's like fucked. But then like, I don't know. My first instinct was I was just dying. I was like, what? But then I thought about it and I was like, fuck. But yeah, that's anyway. You packed that tobacco in like you packed the fudge in.
Correct, into a little boy's ass, a Roman towel boy.
Yeah, I mean,
you did a great job handling that while I was fumbling around for like 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm used to it. I fucking, it happens all the time when recording these things. You just get up, you got to do some shit. So yeah, celebrity culture. Fucking look, there's all the different ways to talk about it. Like some people like to talk about like the lineage and the gossip aspect and the cultural aspect of that gossip, which is always like boils down to some form of like identity politics these days. But then there's also the juicier stuff, like the conspiracy theory stuff, like the occult stuff,
the juicier stuff.
I've actually
JEWCY. Oh, CILY.
Oh yeah. No, I don't even look at it as Jews anymore. I mean, I feel like that's like so. Like looking back, like that was so basic conspiracy.
It's so retarded too.
The reptilian one is way more sick.
I don't know. Maybe Jewish women are just so sexy. They naturally get whatever they want, which is domination of world Jewry.
Jewish women like Oprah Winfrey,
Yeah,
Whoopi Goldberg. Sorry, I got them too confused for a second.
that's quite right. Oprah is another name from the Bible.
No, I thought it was Harpo backwards.
Their family meant to say Orpah from the Bible, but they named her Oprah.
Oh.
Orpah is some Old Testament character. I forget. Some Jewess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've noticed that about like a lot of black people's names. It's like it seems. I mean, I like to say it's intentional. You know, like I want to say they purposely misspelled.
Yeah, they probably do. Actually, they do a lot of stuff like that as part of being a oppositional culture.
Exactly. Well, and my dad has that personality. Like he gave he's like stupid with naming. He named my siblings like stupid names. Like my sister, he named her Sky.
That seems like a fine name.
Yeah, but it's not conventional.
Would you prefer Skylar?
No. I prefer a biblical name. I mean, not even for my sister, just in general for people. Like I like biblical names. I think they act as like protective barriers of some kind. You know, I think so.
Makes sense as a Christopher.
Yeah, but Christopher isn't necessarily. I don't think that's a biblical name. Unlike like Matthew or John, it's not like there was anyone in the Bible named Christopher. You know,
There's someone in the Bible named Christ.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point of the name Christopher. Isn't to be named Christ, but to bear that name. Like the name literally means the bearer of Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's not like you're named like after one of the.
Well, let me put it this way: you are the top biblical fandom name.
No, I'm basically named after like the top fan of Christ.
Yeah, exactly. The otaku of Christ. That would be a good name, otaku for Christ.
Yeah, but I'd rather be named after one of the people like in the actual comic. You know, like one of the characters that got to hang with him. You know, like
You'd rather be a Thomas or a Judas.
I like Matthew. I think Matthew was cool. I mean, I don't want that name Matthew, but as far as all of his apostles go, I think Matthew was cool, dude. He was like the autistic guy, right? He was like a tax collector.
Yeah. I have to look over again at all the disciples and their personalities.
I mean, Matthew was the autist because not only was a tax collector, but that probably made him like uniquely fit to like write things down like in a very detailed manner, like in a very exact way.
I've just held up the podcast so you can listen to me fumble with my matches.
No, it's fine.
Like, I'm doing a trick that you showed me, Chris.
Oh, nice. Yeah, matches are better. Wooden matches are probably better than cardboard matches, but they're like a pain in the ass to carry.
And you can't do this trick.
Yeah.
These are superior because of the matchbook trick.
Yeah. I forgot where I learned that from. I think it was it was the first Resident Evil movie. Jill Valentine did it. Played by some no-name B-list actress, but you know what? The movie held up. The only thing I didn't like about it, that was before like the producers of these video game movies, that was before they understood like how to do fan service properly. I mean, Resident Evil movies did it to some extent. Like the first movie, they just did their own thing completely. But by the time they released the second Resident Evil movie, they finally understood. It's like, all right, fans seem to really respond to the elements ripped straight from the game. So let's rip like outfits, whole characters, settings, scenarios, you know, bad guys, like the actual monsters. And then now video game movies have evolved to this point where it's like, let's just keep it in canon, bros. Like let's just make it all fit, you know, let's just make it all coordinated, you know. Because that's the problem with like adaptations back in the day. The productions were so like uncoordinated between different projects, like it just didn't make sense altogether, you know. Like the fucking first Mario Brothers movie.
That's an interesting case because the script was already written. It's another script that was retrofitted to be Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, that's hilarious too.
It wasn't written from the ground up based on the IP or... I timed that puff very poorly. It was a different sci-fi comedy.
Wait. I just want to interject.
Please.
You're smoking a pipe. We're talking. We're drinking scotch. You're allowed to like interject with some pauses between puffs, man. I think you're allowed that dignity.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chris.
Well, it's also
I do better when I slow down too.
Well, it's also thematically appropriate, I guess. You taught me that thematically appropriate scenarios, like how we felt that Trump was going to win because it would be thematically appropriate.
Yeah, there's that narrative, collective, unconscious push.
Yeah, everyone felt it. They wanted to make it happen.
Is the spirit of America being channeled into Donald Trump?
Well,
or a part of America?
Yes, and yeah, I think so. I mean, he's the president, so it's like it's kind of has to be that way at this point, right? But like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird things about the Trump family in particular. I'm not just talking about like the shit that you could just look in Wikipedia, but like just really weird shit. Like there was a book that was released in like the late 1800s where the main character was this
Baron Trump.
Yeah, Baron Trump. You know, that's really weird. And then we were talking about before how like, you know, all these like with the weird UAP sightings and the drone sightings, like our idea of aliens and extraterrestrials could be like highly advanced humans from like millions of years into the future or thousands of years into the future even, you know? Like all the grays we've been seeing could literally just be these like mechanical projections or biomechanical projections that like these future...
Here's a theory. Grays are the future of Asians. All human beings look like chimpanzees, all races.
Yeah.
With the exception of East Asians who look like grays.
I'll add on to that. And on top of that, the reason why cattle mutilations and like all these abductions happen, particularly when it comes to like people's like sexual organs and stuff.
It's like, all traditional Chinese medicine.
I was going to say it's because like
time traveling Chinamen are stealing our balls or kidneys and mutilating cattle.
Yeah. And it's because in the future, the Asians reach some genetic dead end. Like they realize like we fucked up and like fucking around with our genetics to the point where it's like now we can't really have babies anymore. So we got to go back in time and start harvesting sex organs from past humans so that we can continue sustaining our future. And we got to make deals with the government in secret, and they'll agree with us because we'll show them how we're from the future, and we'll like prove to them time and time again. It's like, listen, we know what's going to happen to you guys. We went back far enough to you so that we know like we could do this to you guys and with you guys. We need your help, and you have no choice because without us, you guys are in for some real shit. You know, like so it's like they have no choice but to comply. So maybe that's like the whole conspiracy closed up in a loop, you know, like future time humans who reach some genetic dead end and they have to come to us and fucking fix it. And that's why they're doing all this fucked up shit to us. It's for the future of humanity, you know?
Yeah. Aliens from the future have to teach us sodomy to save humanity.
No, they have to harvest our fucking sex organs and kill us. Some of us. Tragic.
Imagine a dystopian future where the entire world is Chinese.
Damn.
And all of human biolife is being used for traditional Chinese medicine, and every single animal is being hunted to extinction.
I don't think it would ever be plausible. I mean, you could say that about any race, really, but the way I think that would happen is, I think about Dune.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is, right? It's like Dune was so far into the future that guys like Elon Musk aren't just like a tech billionaire on Earth. They're like whole ass monarchs on like ruling over entire like planets and shit, and like, you know, an emperor is ruling over systems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know? Do you know a bit about the Dune verse?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I'm not a huge fan. I've read the first novel. I haven't read any of the others. I have a passing knowledge of them. I love the first novel a lot. I don't know why I didn't read the sequels.
All right, so like with the Dune verse, fucking, you know, like that's it's not really a bleak outlook, but it's not an optimistic outlook either. It's not really exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it has its phases of bleakness and it has its phases of utopian phases and all that shit. But
Yeah.
I mean, what I liked about it is you know, because a lot of sci-fi doesn't go that far. You know, into it, it doesn't assume that humanity even has a shot at like surviving that ahead, but maybe we do, and you know, like or you know, like maybe we have many times, you know, like, and like one thing I liked about like the Dune interpretation is like, you know, like when things advance to such a point, eventually it just goes around back to like feudalism, you know.
Yeah. The return to this medieval or this archaic form.
I think it's once you're able to introduce unknown boundaries again. You know, it's like when the lands are unknown, yeah, like feudalism makes a lot of sense, you know? So, but it's like when the world's a tiny place like this, feudalism makes absolutely no fucking sense. But this is why I fundamentally disagree with globalists and communists, because to me, I think they're
Sorry, go on.
I think they're nearsighted. I think they assume. I think those people are still like small-minded in a sense where they're still thinking in terms of planet Earth, and I don't blame them. Planet Earth is our home. You know, planet Earth. We have to respect it and be grateful for it. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're supposed to die on it. We're not destined to die on Earth. I don't think. I think that's fatalist to say we are. I agree. That's still like one of the things I agree with Elon Musk.
I think even if it's impractical, it's valuable to want to get off planet as a romantic narrative.
I think it's our destiny. I think
Yeah.
there's no other way.
Maybe we'll kill ourselves if we don't try getting off Earth.
Because here's my angle on killing ourselves. I think we first of all, my personal belief.
I think going interplanetary and then intergalactic, is something that will give everyone's life meaning, which does make it our destiny.
Yes.
The alternative would be just to wallow here.
Yes. But also like looking at the other direction, the opposite direction, I would say like personal belief, I believe that we've done this before. We have wiped ourselves out before. We have done this probably a bunch of times. You know, I do think this isn't the first time we've split the atom. I don't think this is the first time we've discovered how to harness electricity. I don't think this is our first industrial revolution as we know it in history. I think we probably did do things before like this. Maybe so long ago we don't remember, you know? Because we're talking about like our existence.
Like the Mahabharata.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you think about like a cataclysmic flood. Like I do think maybe we could have gone through cycles that just like literally wipes everything out and brings us back to the Stone Age pretty much. However, I do think traces of it after each reset, there's always a little bit of a trace that gets left behind, and it's more and more each time, you know, because it's like carrying on the slight legacy of the last great civilization. And even if our modern quote unquote modern era gets wiped out in some crazy like cataclysmic pole shift, you know, I still think there would be remnants of our own greatness also like put forth in the next reset, you know.
Well, dark ages that we definitively know about, like at the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 6th century, like the Bronze Age collapse, we all bounced back from, taking perhaps maybe less and less time. In the European Dark Ages, there was never a total loss of literacy like in Greece during the Bronze Age collapse Dark Age. We could certainly, I fully believe we could have such a collapse and then rebuilding, and we would bounce back, I assume, much faster.
Well, here's the problem. Also, this is one of the scary parts. Is during these cycles, I mean, if we're talking about highly advanced civilizations that were so advanced, maybe they weren't all just like done away by natural disaster. Maybe a lot of them, like in the Hindu text, where they spoke of like these crazy crafts, like basically launching like atomic weapons, you know, against each other, and like maybe this destroying the world in that cycle. And they talk about Hinduism talks about a cycle, you know, like
Yeah,
in
they said the
yugas.
Mahabharata, right?
Yeah, maybe that could be what they're kind of like referring to, you know, like anyway. What's possible is throughout these cycles, there could have been a group, a family, a lineage that has survived with all the knowledge intact of every single cycle. And maybe that's the Cabal. Maybe it's the Jews. Maybe it's the reptilians. Maybe it's, you know, like
An
maybe it's
enlightened hermetical order.
maybe the Egyptians fucked
The
around.
Rosicrucians.
I mean, maybe they also, like, if you look at Kemet lineage, how they talked about like transference of consciousness and all that shit.
How about this? Prior to, I don't know, like Lesser Dryas or the end of the Ice Age, Great Flood kind of thing. Your Atlantis, as you mentioned. You have a very
Lemuria.
What?
Or Lemuria.
Yeah, you have a very widespread Stone Age society. Something akin to Mesoamerican societies.
Flintstones.
Yeah. Imagine an earlier globalist society with all Stone Age technology and what the collapse of that would be like.
I don't know. It seems pretty inconsequential.
Well, there was a collapse in the Neolithic, like 8,000 BC, I think. In like Epic of Gilgamesh in Sumeria, they reference earlier civilizations, and that's from a point of like 3,500, 3,000 BC. They wouldn't have to have had psychic powers or any kind of intergalactic communication. You just could have a very complex but more technologically primitive empire that once existed that is now forgotten to us, except for drifting references in very old texts.
I don't know. I mean, there could have been I think a person would say that, like, if on the basis of, well, we never recovered any advanced technology, we never recovered anything like crazy and like,
well, no, give me a second here. Imagine a very complex society that's stretching from like England or Norway to Mesoamerica to all along the Mediterranean.
okay,
They have Flintstones like technology, like way more complicated stone tools and social organization than we can imagine.
okay,
Like imagine Roman efficiency, but they don't have ironworking. They haven't made that technological leap, but they have that level of like thinking or of organization.
okay.
And something like that collapsing, and because perhaps they don't have writing, perhaps everyone is just like a mentat that's mentally or orally remembering everything, or they have a very crude writing system, you know, just for ledgers, or they're using wood or paper, or not paper, nor papyrus. Let's say they're just carving in wood, or using fabric working technology to record information. And imagine the end of the Ice Age, raising sea levels, destroying a bunch of their settlements, scattering them. But please continue what they're going to say about advanced technology, because I've trailed off, meandering here.
No, I was. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that could be, that type of organization is possible without writing, without systems of writing.
Interesting.
I don't.
You know,
I don't think like you could have an empire that big without like a true system of history of record, and like
just organizationally copying, moving things. Are cuneiform tablets actually the oldest form of writing?
I don't know.
I don't think they are.
I don't know. I have no idea. So it's like clearly like if there is like there could be older, more advanced forms of writing.
It could just be older, maybe simpler, maybe as complex forms of writing that don't have as much staying power.
Maybe.
Like you have, I don't know, a bunch of wooden carved,
Or maybe they just like drew shapes in the dirt. You know, that meant so much more than whatever we could ever possibly conceive of in writing form. Or maybe they were a bit more psychic, and like maybe there was something different in the atmosphere that allowed them to like be a little more telepathic. Because like transmitting thoughts is an electric process if you think about it. Like, you know, when it comes to like transmitting data from smartphone to smartphone to be taken in with our eyeballs and processed as data. But, you know, aside from that, like when it comes to advanced technology from advanced civilizations, they did have it. And there were surviving lineages that kept all the knowledge intact. There could easily be coordinated efforts to hide it, you know, to cover it up. I mean, shit clearly falls through the cracks. Otherwise, we wouldn't even talk about it or even entertain it seriously, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Is there enough of a reason to cover it up? I suppose so.
Well, I could think of a couple of scenarios. For example, like let's say we're dealing with like a more advanced species than us, not quite human. Maybe there's a part of them that's human, or maybe they're just not human at all. But they're more advanced than us, and maybe they were able to contact like the most powerful among us, and whether they're in the corporate world, whether they're in politics, whether they're in culture, and to coordinate them in a way to say like, listen, you guys have to work for us because we're letting you live, we own you. And to these people, like they'll do the game theory in their heads, and they're like, they're right. Because even a layman like me can easily discern that, you know. So you do what these things say, and they'll even sweeten the deal. They'll be like, you do what we say. Not only do we not kill you, but we'll give you some gifts. We'll give the select among you some technology, and they'll give like utter psychopaths and sociopaths and control freaks like UFOs and shit. It's like, do with this what you will. Better your species. And they're like, yeah, all right, I'll bet. Yeah, I'm gonna better my species. I'm gonna give this shit to Lockheed Martin and Boeing and fucking like, you know, 3M like. And this can all be corroborated by like these supposed whistleblowers. I don't think you believe these whistleblowers though. But it still is weird that they go before Congress. That's weird.
It is weird.
If it is a sham, it's why go through the effort to make this sham? Why not just make a glowy and plant him in 4chan on Twitter? Like, why go through the effort of?
This feels like the ultimate glowy. It's a glowy plant in front of all of these television.
Yeah, but you know how that already sounds ridiculous. Like, what's the need for an ultimate glowy? The president is already the ultimate glowy.
Because the population is so jaded or so used to various extravagant.
We need harder and harder glowies.
Yeah,
we gotta up the dosage of glow.
This is a glowy for the entire country, or at least for a significant portion of it.
Our glowy tolerance is rising as a collective.
They're making UFOology as mainstream as possible.
But now it's not even just glowy saying this shit. It's like the reason why they have to up the glowy, it's not just us being jaded. It's also like more normal people seeing weird shit.
Yeah.
So that creates the real cause of upping the glowy. You know, so
yeah.
Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe we've been in contact with aliens?
Not overly.
What does your dad say about it?
My dad's very alien skeptical, which is surprising given his age, his politics, his cultural personality.
What about your mom?
No.
What about your bro?
No. My family has a very materialist bent.
All right, so let me ask you something. Like, let's say you guys all turn on the news. Every single news source was covering like a first contact event between like world leaders and aliens. How would your family handle that? Would they deny it like all the way to the end until they could actually meet one face to face, or would they actually buy it? Like if it was on CNN and BBC, and
they would believe it and wait and see how it affects their personal lives. If it doesn't, they don't really care.
So let's say it was established.
Yes.
Do you think like a lot of people will like suddenly like quit their jobs or rob stores or become religious or like? Do you think there would be a lot of chaos?
I feel like a lot of people would just keep living their lives as they were before.
Do you think they would meme about it?
What?
Do you think they would meme about it?
Yeah, but not that much.
No.
It would just be like, it's just like a mild, moderate. Some people are more into it than others. It's
You know what I
kind
think?
of gay.
You know
to
what
be
I
too
think?
into aliens.
I think if like this happened, like first official contact happened between world leaders and like extraterrestrials on a world stage, I think you would have like fuckers on like Twitter and 4chan coming up with slurs for these aliens. It'll be like,
Well, after a week, Mexicans would be better at cooking their food than they are.
first of all right, here's the three phases of degeneracy that would happen. First, you would have 4chan coming up with slurs, right?
Yeah.
Then you would have these degenerates creating porn and talking about how they want to fuck one of these things, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, you would have fuck, the third one I guess was so dark I just forgot it. Like my mind just blanked it out. But the third one was even worse. Like,
Yeah.
oh, the third one turned into I guess outright like racism, hatred, killing them. Oh no. Okay. The third one was like Chinese dark levels where like, oh, these things look tasty. They're not human, they're not from this earth. Let's eat them. They're fair game. And imagine they look like Nordics, like blonde haired, blue eyed, like white, and the Chinese are like, yeah, you know, we could eat them. Like, you know?
Yeah. Chinese will eat any alien they encounter.
Yeah.
As I've said before, with them, it'll just be utilized in traditional Chinese medicine.
Pleiadian in blood. That'll be fucked. But yeah, I think that's what would happen. I think on the internet we would see memes, and then people would call them like some kind of slur. Then people would come up with porn. I think that's like one thing that would be very curious about. Like if they were humanoid and if they had like vulvas and peni, like
Yeah.
they would do it. Like humans would be like,
Oh,
eh.
definitely. Immediately. Even if they didn't have genitalia resembling ours, a lot of people would want to fuck them.
You know what? I would go so far as to say that by the time such an event happened in the public eye, probably a decade or a couple of decades or a bunch of decades contact worth of research and all experimentation has already been done.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah.
Believable. What time are we at?
We're not even at an hour and a half yet.
Wow.
Yeah, time slows down when you're having fun.
I feel like this is a more dense, impactful episode than many of ours.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because
Or rather, the density, the content, the quality of our content has risen as we continue to record.
yeah, it's usually how these episodes go. I mean, it's also like what we're going through, the times we're in. You know, things are getting a little more dense and impactful. I mean, China's about to invade fucking Taiwan. Who knows what that's going to mean?
Who knows what that's going to mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. M-E-M-E.
What do you mean?
Who knows what that's going to meme when China invades Taiwan?
Oh. I don't know. I mean,
This is very dumb. Excuse me.
no. I was thinking about it. You got to stop being so self-critical.
That's true.
You're a white man, for God's sakes.
That's true. You're right. I should show real racism and self-confidence.
No, not well, I don't know if you want, if you insist. I'm
But
just
you're right.
saying,
Excuse my whiny Jewish neuroses about her self-doubt. But
don't give the Jews neuroses. I mean, I think that's giving them too much credit. Like, the Jews can't have neuroses. I'm sorry. Like, I know a lot of people say, like, oh,
this is real Jew denialism. Actually, Jews aren't neurotic at all.
No.
This would be a really good bit. If you go up to Jewish people and you just
You guys can't have that, all right?
No, you
guys
say,
can't-
actually, Jews, they're very athletic. Sorry, Jews. You guys rule at sports.
You guys play basketball, yeah?
But you can't do math, and you're not good with money. You waste your money. And when they start arguing with you, you're like, nope, sorry, that's Jewish denialism.
Like, what do you guys spend your money on? What, do you just hoard it like a fucking goblin? You don't even know how to spend your money. You just hoard it.
Yeah.
Look at you. You all wear the same clothes.
You're all either wearing your 17th century Eastern European fashion,
No.
or you're wearing like Timberlands and a puffer jacket and saying you're a big fan of Drake.
No, I'm serious. Like, they can't have neurosis. They can't be the neurotic. You can't just be like, I'm Jew, I'm neurotic. No, all right. Plenty of different people are neurotic. Okay, have you seen the Albanians? They're fucking. They're violently neurotic. Okay, the Chinese, trust me, they're plenty neurotic. You guys, you Jews, cannot just be quote unquote the neurotic ones. Okay, you're already the chosen ones. Okay, you can't also have the neurotic ones. You gotta share. You gotta share the titles. Yeah, but the shout out to Owen Benjamin, who said his new strategy is to just deny Jew status to Jews. Like, I don't hate Ben Shapiro because he's a Jew. I don't even think he's a real Jew. He's not a Jew. He's a poser. And then he's like, when people like screech and complain and whine as to how they're actually Jewish, it becomes like abundantly clear that there's no clear definition. It's just like shapeshifter, liability shield horse shit. And I said in a rebuttal, I was like, you could also do this with like autism, you know, which is also true because autism is like poorly defined. It's not even real, I don't think. And if it is real, it's probably a calcified pineal gland. I mean, there's one common thing I could say I've seen across autistic people is I don't think they really have faith in God. I mean, they know the rules of God. They know what it means to believe in God, and they know all the aspects of what different people say about it. But I don't think any of them live as if they have faith in God. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so fucking neurotic. I mean, at some point, you wouldn't worry about the texture of your fucking pants and your food if you just trusted that God will work it out, you fucking idiot.
Well, that's why you have Jewish religious code to tell you the kind of clothing you can wear and how often you can like rotate your crops and why you can't eat pork.
And that takes intuition, and intuition comes from your pineal gland. And if it's calcified, then you're not going to have that connection to God. And I'm sorry, like, you know, it is what it is. You know, I mean, maybe, you know what's fucked up? Like, maybe if autistic people just went to church every week and like suddenly it's like,
they would be cured.
It's like suddenly they don't care. They don't care as much about their autistic shit. They're like, okay, well, I feel uncomfortable, so I think I'm gonna go pray. And suddenly they feel a lot better. And it's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna have a corn dog. And you know, it's like, God, life is good suddenly. You know, like, like I think I'm gonna go have a mini Snickers. You know, like, I think I'm gonna go play Minecraft. God is good. Yo, so I gotta show you this tweet, but
yeah, go ahead.
There's this person. You know about Nothing Star?
No, I don't.
So Nothing Star was this secret group on Facebook. Do you know about Taj Bourgeois?
Yeah, vaguely. I know from you, yes.
Yeah, Taj made this group called Nothing Star, and that was a secret group, borderline cult. And there was one member named Miles. Miles became a trans woman, a very passing one, I gotta say. Like, you know, shout out to you, Miles. When you were a trans woman, you were pretty good at it. You know, like, because they were apparently a model / actor by trade, very convincing. But they recently detransitioned, and it went like mini viral on Twitter. I'll show you the video. It's actually really good. And they came on. Well, I could say he now. He came on.
Wait, Pariah?
What?
Is this Pariah?
Yeah, Pariah Doll.
Yeah, I met Pariah separately from you.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
Cool, right?
Wait, have we ever hung out with him?
No, I've spoken to him plenty of times. So it's like I know him pretty much. But he recently detransitioned. So yeah, you know about the story. So yeah.
I have hung out with him a bunch of times.
Did you see his detransitioning video?
Yeah.
Very
feminine behavior.
But it's like the narrative, it was so base. Like, he was like, I just didn't want to be a tranny anymore. And I want this is what God wanted. I think I was listening to God, and you know, Jesus is my savior, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And he was like, I just didn't feel the truth. I didn't feel like the way I was living was true to God and Jesus. So I stopped. And I'm a man. I'm a boy. I was a lie. I was lying. I wasn't really a woman. And I was like, you know, I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is based. Like, this is like, what else can I say except God is good? You know, I'm like, shit. Because it's not that they detransitioned. It's that they did something, they did this and they were happy about it. And they were like, and he was like, God loves a prodigal son. And that's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Absolutely true. God does love a prodigal son. And yeah, it was based. And like, you know, the reactions were also like fucking solid too. I was like, this is good shit. And this is the power of God.
When did you meet Miles?
I never met Miles in person.
When did you first interact with him online?
Oh, like in Nothing Star.
When was that? What year was that?
Oh, like a while ago. I was like in my 20s. I was just before I was even like
a decade ago?
A little less than a decade ago. I was probably
8 years ago?
Like 24.
Okay. Huh. That's a decade ago. Oh, 24.
24, 25. So it was like 9 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, Miles was a trans person being transphobic.
Yeah, interesting. This was a routine he worked out previous. Feels weird saying he. I just want to say she.
Because he's so good at it in passing.
Yeah, because I've hung out. I've only ever known.
This must have been a huge blow to like this minimal trans community that he was a part of. Because it's like, damn, we lost our finest soldier.
Yeah.
We lost him to heaven and God. Oh my God. That's so sick. So funny. Well, what can I say? The times they are changing. But this is like what I'm talking about. Like kind of like a change in paradigm, you know?
Yeah.
A vibe shift.
Yeah, it is. It's a real signal of it, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. It's not that I hate it or like it. I was expecting it. And I was literally just since 2 years ago, ever since I had like a psychotic break, I was like, yo, watch, like you're going to see like everyone going through like the dark night of the soul.
Yeah. As
Carl Jung put it. That's what Pariah went through. That's literally what triggered it. That's a dark night of the soul. That's where they go through their shit and they're like, I'm a fucking idiot. And that's what everyone really needs. I mean, not everyone will do that, you know? And it's actually like the only trans people I know now are like outwardly like identifying with like satanic imagery and all this shit. Cause you know, like, you know, the Lucifer, the androgynous sexual body shit.
Lilith? No, you mean Baphomet.
Yeah, Baphomet.
They love Baphomet and they love Lilith. And
it's like becoming stark. And it's like, listen, whether or not you believe in this shit literally, it's still like bad juju. You know, it's bad energy. Yeah. And it's like obvious, like you guys are on the wrong side, like of the frequency, of the vibes. Like you're on bad vibes. Literally, it's bad vibes. You know,
every single, whether you're a Christian, a Buddhist, or an atheist, there's bad vibes attached with what they're doing.
Yeah, but it's like there's always like this shifting like consensus, right? It's never set. It's never static. It's always like, you know, sometimes it's like the zealots are on the Christian side and it's like, you're not cool. The Christians aren't cool. But now it's like the pendulum swinging again. You know, it's always like this swinging pendulum on different dimensions in different realms. Now it's like they're getting their reckoning. You know, it's like now I hope like everyone's smart now. It's like just be mindful. Like don't commit to anything that compromises you like so readily. You know, like treat your emotions like visitors just passing through. Yeah. So you saw Nosferatu?
Yeah, I did.
Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it. I finally felt represented in Hollywood because every single male character looked like me, dressed like me, and had a mustache like me.
Yeah. What did that remind me of? That reminds me of the Sherlock Holmes movies.
Yeah. It's a movie about a woman being alpha widowed by an older man, and her cuck husband, new boyfriend, being very effete and impotent in the face of him. There is dick seen on screen in the movie.
That's good.
You have the giant rotting vampire corpse dick, uncut. It's a good movie for girls because the heroine of the movie is Ellen or Mina Murray in Dracula.
All right.
It is without any irritating feminism or idpol illusions. The hysterical BPD female lead is the heroine of the movie.
Okay.
She actually defeats the vampire. Everything all the men are impotent in the movie, and she's the one who has all the power.
Makes sense.
Through her pussy and blood. She has too much blood.
Oh.
She menstruates. It's mentioned in the movie that she menstruates heavily.
That's funny. Damn. So this is the shit you like?
Yeah, I don't know. I love the
Macabre.
Yeah, no, it was very trying very hard. I don't know to what degree it was period accurate to post-Napoleonic, early 19th century.
Would you call it Gothic?
Yeah, it's like Gothic era, Victorian. Germany said a lot of focus on modernized industrial Germany versus backwards Eastern Europe.
Okay.
It's all about Slavs being backwards and weird foreigners. Oh, they say gypsy multiple times in the movie.
Oh.
Wow. Very appropriate timing.
You triggered that, man.
How?
I don't know, just joking.
Oh, it was attached to the word gypsy. They said a slur said multiple times in the movie. When you go to the Wikipedia article for Nosferatu, they never say gypsy, they say Romani.
Romani.
In the synopsis of the movie on Wikipedia, they say there's a bunch of Romani dancing outside of the Slavic Inn.
You know what? I mean, I got to be honest. Like Nosferatu probably isn't for me, but I
really,
mean,
why?
I mean, it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm just not into the aesthetics.
Okay.
You know, I'm not into those, and I'm not into horror movies either. I'm not into like graphic stuff. Well, actually, I am into graphic stuff, just not like horror. But it's because, and I'm not saying it's bad. It's because it really does affect me. Like I gotta say, that probably means it's good. You know, that probably means it's so good it affects me like to my core. Like scary movies scare me, man. It's like, and you know, like girls will drag me to see scary movies.
Yeah, because girls love scary movies.
Well, they'll drag me successfully because it's like, you know, like I don't want to go, but I know it's not bad. I know I'm not gonna be forced to sit through something that's actually low quality. This is good shit, you know, but. That being said, well, yeah. So, I mean, I bet it's good, and maybe I will watch it. You know, because you recommended it, and like
I highly recommend it. There's really is like cuck and bull dynamics in this movie.
So it's just too entertaining. That's what it is. It's like too entertaining not to watch.
You have to watch it because there's so much about alchemy. Orlok, the Dracula stand-in, is said to be an alchemist in it. And Willem Dafoe as the Van Helsing character is a good mystic fighting him. He'll be doing exorcisms and he's saying in the name of Jesus, in the name of like Jupiter, of Agrippa, of Paracelsus, all these esoteric deep cuts.
Yo, speaking of which, I've been getting like this weird feeling, this gut feeling.
Oh, he has a bunch of cats in the movie.
I've been getting this weird gut feeling like maybe I should train to go fight like spirits something.
Yeah, you're gonna go bleach mode.
Yo, imagine.
Yeah.
Like what if I got paid? Because I would do it. I would go to these dark, fucked up places.
I have not looked into South Korea being run by dueling shaman factions. Have you seen that?
I don't know, but if I could get paid to do this, if first of all, if you teach me how to banish evil spirits, and if it takes a lot of energy and focus, I will commit to this. Like, this is something
There's a lot of exorcism scenes in this movie. You should watch it for that.
because I feel like this is something I could do. I'm not scared. First of all, like, the reason why here's why I'm not scared of demons or spirits. It's because I see them within me too. I'm not ignorant to my own darkness. I'm not ignorant to the fact that I've done dark shit. I've had dark shit done to me. So therefore, I know, like, humanity in general has like half and half in them. So it's like, I'm not shy to it. Like, I can't say I've conquered my darkness. I don't think anyone can really conquer their darkness, but I can at least say I try to make peace with it. So because of that, like, when I identify it in another, my immediate reaction is never like, I gotta like, oh my God, you know, like demon. No, it's more like, oh, so that's your manifestation of your darkness. Okay. For some people, it's a lot stronger than others. You know, like, I get that. And I'm not even talking about on a woo, like, oh, I see your aura level. I'm talking about on a purely statistical, logistical, as empirical as I could be about this sort of thing. You know, because if you think about it, like, you just do the numbers and variety and add all the variables into factor, you're like, yeah, I could see it. You know, I could be open-minded about this because it's not illogical to me. You know, like, if I could hold it to a certain framework, I'm like, yeah, I could see it. Some people, like a rape victim, could easily be haunted by some specter or demon of like ill intent, maybe. And I do believe that, like, through the collective unconscious, certain artifacts could survive through ancient times that has very ill intent, and you can't kill it. All you could do is redirect it away from your client, who pays you a lot of money to do so. I could imagine doing that for them, you know?
Yeah.
And all I got to do is give them my card. Is like, call me back if you get the bad vibes again, you know? And all you got to do is really just talk to them. That's usually the cure and the tonic. But anyway, I digress. The movie Nosferatu sounds good. I would watch it for Willem Dafoe. And I'm interested in, vaguely, intuitively interested in the idea of becoming an exorcist. You know, like a spiritual banisher of bad vibes and demons. And, you know, I'm not saying like you could get rich doing this or I'll probably not advertise it. I don't even know if I would tell people I do this for a living. You know, it would be hard to talk about. It's like they would look at you like you're fucking retarded. But I think it is important to some people. I think some people can truly not move on with their life unless they have. And like, the people they need are not other believers. They need skeptics who can meet them where they are. And that's what I'm willing to be, because that's how I'm approaching this for myself. Like, this is the only way I could approach it, is a skeptic to meet these people where they are. And I'm like, all right. And, you know, once you see enough of these stories, you start to realize there's like some common threads here, you know? So, yeah, I would want to be like, maybe, you know, I just don't want to do it for the church. I'm skeptical about the church, you know? I know the church has the most experience doing this sort of thing. It's just, I don't know if I trust them. I would learn from them, but I don't know if I trust their organization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is a show that I think you would like. If from what you told me, about Nosferatu. This show I recently started watching, starring a very handsome black man.
Yeah, go on.
and a very handsome white woman. Well, she's like really. She actually, that's a good word for it. Handsome, like she's very attractive. She's like got that MILF look.
Handsome is what you call an attractive older woman.
Yeah. So the show is called Evil.
Go on.
So you know the show Luke Cage?
Mm-hmm.
It stars him, that guy.
Yeah.
And it co-stars, he plays this priest in training, and he is an assessor. And what the assessor does is, every time someone requests from the church an exorcism, the church has to send, it takes considerable efforts to send like a qualified priest to perform a real exorcism. So they send an assessor first. Yeah. And they have like a set of criteria. Oh, we check this stuff. It's like this, check. Yep, this requires an exorcism. So he's the assessor. And, you know, even that job is a serious job, because, you know, you get paid to do this. Like, the church extends the assessor money to do this. It's like, we can't send all of our priests everywhere, so we were willing to pay, you know, and they do have money. They're the fucking Catholic Church. So what he does is he has his own team. And he has a tech guy / forensics analyst, and what he does is he looks at the physical aspects and technological aspects, and he's a non-believer. He's an atheist.
Yeah.
And then he hires. The show is really about this woman. She's like the heroine of the show. Mm-hmm. She's a forensic psychoanalyst. She usually works with like criminals and shit. And she got hired by this guy for her skepticism because she's also like a relative non-believer. So they basically go around to all these like possession cases involving like murder, rape, child abuse, and all this shit. And they determine if it's like demonic or just like purely just a whack job psycho, you know, like it's a good show. I think if you would like it. I think you would really like it.
Sounds very intriguing. What year is it set? What era?
Oh, I think this came out in like 2019.
When is it set? 2019?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually really good. It's I mean, some parts of it, like at first for me, like I was like, oh, I don't like the way they're doing this. This is kind of cheesy, but they always like kick it up in the right way, and I'm like, oh wow, you know, like I didn't expect you to go this hard with this, you know, like it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think you would like Evil. I mean, that's a quirky name for a show.
I'm surprised it hasn't been done before. Maybe it was, but
we got like 20 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
So yeah, we gotta check out Evil, but there was this really cool scene I just saw. So one of their cases was a pregnant woman. She comes in, she's like, she requests an exorcism or blah blah blah, and he's like, all right, like tell us about this woman. And you speak to her, and she's pregnant with twins, and she's like, I don't need the exorcism, it's what's inside of me. And apparently the boy. And she had an in vitro fertilization. Yeah. And the boy was possessed because she was like, I could hear his voice. He's telling me like heinous things in my head, and my daughter inside the same womb is crying out for help. Blah blah blah. And they were doing all these things, like these procedures to check. They were like, I'm going to put a cross on you to see if it burns you, and nothing happened to her. And it's like they put it on her belly, and then suddenly like the baby kicked, and it's like it just kicked it off, and it started like hurting her and shit. And then later when they were like, all right, let's go to church or whatever, and she goes to mass, she ate the body of Christ, and then suddenly she fell into pain, and then she started bleeding like profusely from her vagina.
Yeah.
And they took her to the hospital, and they checked the wound, and they did the ultrasound, and the girl fetus was gone. Like the boy fetus just ate it. And I was like, it's an intense show, man. You would like it. Like it
does sound like something I would like. Yes.
It was pretty fucking brutal. I was like, holy shit. I guess like what's good is that it addresses good and evil. You know, it addresses forces of good. It addresses forces of evil. But it also makes the good characters do like bad things, and it also makes the bad characters like seem like they're doing things for understandable reasons.
A successor to the X-Files, or modeled on the X-Files.
I think the X-Files, honestly, like as cheesy as the X-Files was, I think the X-Files was more open-minded, I guess. Like open.
I don't think the X-Files was cheesy. I think it was very masterfully made, but maybe that's because of my age.
You know what? You're right. Because like I also recently watched the X-Files like when I was like an adult. I think I was on my 30th birthday or 30. No, I was on my 32nd birthday, and I was like rewatching the X-Files for the first time, and I was like, I haven't watched this since I was like fucking 11 years old at my grandma's house, you know. And I started watching the episodes, and like it was actually kind of eerie.
Yeah.
You know, because they always like rip from like real conspiracy theories and shit, or whatever they could dig up on, I guess, the internet. I bet that's what they did. I bet like the studio really, they were like, yeah, we got this nerd just surfing the fucking internet all day, and it's like, looking up like weird message boards and talking about weird shit. I mean, you were around for early internet, right?
Yeah, I got online in 2004, so not super, well, millennial internet, but not before the total mainstream adoption, but after the select crew of people. Like, I'm way after Usenet. I'm after all the old heads.
What about Angel Fire?
That was around at the same time as me, but I know The internet was technically around in like 93.
What about yeah, it was Angel Fire. There was also Newgrounds.
Yeah, that I was around then when I was 15.
You know, I didn't know this as a kid, but I think before high school, I was in my like junior high school days. I was an adolescent, like between like 11 and 13. I lived with my aunt and my uncle. And as I lived with my aunt and my uncle, I also lived close to my uncle's parents. And my uncle had a brother who was my other uncle, you know, kind of by extension. And I didn't realize this now, but I look back and I realized that guy was like, he was one of like the proto incel neats.
Really? When was she born? How old is he now?
He's a Gen
still
Xer.
Alive?
He's a Gen Xer.
Okay. Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's a Gen Xer.
How old is he?
Like the size of any Gen. Like an older Gen X, like 40s,
40s?
late 40s probably.
I mean, I just want to have
mid to late 40s.
like 46 to 49. Maybe
Yeah,
50.
maybe a little younger, maybe 44, 45 or something.
Let's say 45. That seems like an average.
Yeah. So he's like that, and I didn't realize.
So he's a decade older than me. I'm 35 this month.
Yeah, and I am 33.
Well, so he's a proto incel, a proto.
I didn't know this as a kid, but I'm looking back and I was like, compared to, first of all, that particular uncle that my aunt was married to had another brother. He was like the youngest brother. It was 3 brothers.
Yeah.
And the middle one was the incel, I think. The youngest one was a pimp. He never married because, well, he now just recently married, but he was not prone to getting married because he was a pimp. You know, he was too busy getting laid as a Manhattan insurance guy. And of course, the oldest one was.
What's his ethnicity? Who did he marry?
Korean. They were all Koreans.
And he married a Korean?
I don't know who he married.
Okay.
But the oldest one married my aunt, Korean, you know? So then the middle one, though, I never saw him with a woman, ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Throughout my whole life. Ever since my aunt. And my aunt was married to this man since, like, I was, like, super young. Like 4, maybe 5. But, yeah, I never saw this middle uncle with a woman ever. So I think he was a proto-incel.
And he's still single?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in years. But I would, if I looked at him now, if you bet me money, like 50-50
You should
shot,
look him up and see what
I bet he's
like.
single. I bet he's single.
Yeah.
I bet he would. From what I remember, like I wouldn't have assumed this like 10 years ago. But now at my age, looking back at everything that I know now about like psychology and incel culture, and he distributed all the signs. He's definitely now still single, living with his parents in that same place with his Miata, like probably surfing 4chan. And he did. I don't think I didn't know he surfed 4chan. I never saw him on 4chan, but from what he showed us, he showed me my first meme. I didn't even realize it. I was probably like 11 or something. It was an "Oh really" meme.
When he was 21 or 22 or something.
No, I think it was like maybe mid
25 or something. Yeah.
late, mid to late. But yeah, he showed me like "Oh really" meme. No, I think this was a little later. Maybe I was 14. But yeah, he showed me the "Oh really" meme, and it's like, yeah, he was a meme guy, and he was definitely into 4chan. He didn't show it to us kids, but he definitely was. And I mean, it's just weird, like how like you don't see these archetypes form. Well, you don't see the beginnings of these archetypes formed until after they're fully formed.
Yeah.
But you know what? The man had good taste. Like compared to the incels, the actual incels nowadays, he was like a good example. I don't think he did like.
Yeah, he was a more higher achiever because he was an older generation. He was a more noble form.
He knew about cars. He kept a clean bedroom. He kept like he got along with his parents. He, like he had friends. He was just a man child.
Yeah,
and that's what it was back then. Like being.
But he held things down. He didn't cause drama. He was respectable enough.
But compared to like what his culture back then devolved into.
Yeah, as it got broader, more vulgar, lower IQ.
Exactly.
More filled with youth
He
energy
didn't even
and
drink.
mass.
I never seen him drink.
Yeah.
I've never seen him drink, and yet he was probably like one of those supremely lonely, like nobody understands me, only the internet gives me solace type dudes, you know. And yet, like, look what it turned into now. You know, like, you know what? It's because guys like him didn't bother to teach the new generation.
Yeah. That's part of it. By nature, he was not inclined to be outgoing and interact with the younger generation. He was so isolated, especially for his era.
I'm glad you didn't call him autistic because I'm sorry. Like, I don't believe in autism anymore. I just
Yeah. Let's say he had a certain personality. And it's easy to call it autistic, but it probably isn't a medical disorder. It's probably like a groove he got into.
Oh yeah. I mean, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I did believe in autism, I would say he's autistic, 100%.
I don't think I really believe in autistic, even though I say I'm autistic all the time.
Well, that means you don't fucking believe in it.
I don't believe in it. No, it's just a fun bit.
Autism is a fun bit. That's what I'm saying.
All those kids that are banging their heads into walls that are very different than me because they're nonverbal, whereas I never shut up.
I don't think that's...
They're not autistic. Or I'm not autistic. No, they're not autistic.
No, here's the thing.
Neither of us are.
It's either we're wrong about what autism is, or B, autism is something that we're not actually willing to admit. Like a spiritual thing, not like a fucking true biological thing. If it was a biological thing, we would have been able to pick it up a long time ago, but we never did. So it's clearly like something, maybe it is biological, but it's hidden. You know, maybe it's something that like we're just not allowed to see. This is why I think it's a calcified pineal gland. Because autism has only been on the rise, and yet we still have no biological indicators for autism.
It probably just is being under-socialized. Maybe under-socialized with
Well, what does under-socialized mean? Under-socialized means what? You don't go outside, you don't get enough sun, and what happens when you don't get enough sun?
Yeah, it's a vitamin D deficiency.
Your pineal gland calcifies.
Have you ever heard of vitamin D deficiency causes schizophrenia, which is why there's so many schizo black homeless.
Okay, so
because they have vitamin D deficiencies.
can I tell you something crazy?
Go ahead.
The things I went through would have made me, like, not like physically, like went through physically.
Yeah.
No, the things I've like put myself through mentally.
Yeah.
And and I say I put myself through it, so I don't blame any other external. It was all me. I would be a classified schizophrenic. The only thing that made me not like obsess over like reptilians and Jews and shit. It was
having above 100 IQ.
No, nothing to do with intellect, because intellect would have just reinforced it. Intellect would have.
Okay, what was it?
Spirituality, God, spirit. It was what makes me feel good. Is it the things I know? No, the things I know make me feel bad. Well, what makes me feel good? I don't know, eating good food, hanging out with friends, making love to women, drawing, doing martial arts, riding my bike. It's like, what do all these things have in common? Well, love. What is love? And then that's what led me to be more spiritual and brought me down that path. If I went with the purely cerebral route, I would have fucked myself. So I would have been a Satanist.
Yeah.
Basically, if I just tried to logic my way through that whole process, I would have been fucked. I would have become like a sociopath, full blown. Now it's like there's no way for me to be a sociopath, or because I view everyone as me, as different versions of me.
Yeah.
Like if I hurt you, I hurt me. Like what? Like how can I do anything like fucked up? Because it's like. It's not even like how can I do anything fucked up? It's like how can anyone do anything fucked up? Like how can you not know this? Because it's not even something. It's like a belief thing for me. You know what that specific thing. I mean, God is one thing. Jesus is a completely different thing. But the idea that we're just different versions of each other, that I think tracks in a materialist sense too. You know. I mean, that's what's really blocking empathy. Like people think they could logic their way into empathy, and I think those people are fucking retards.
No, it's something very different than logic or than intellect.
It's intuitive. It's spiritual.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and even when they make headway into it, it's with so much more effort than just doing it intuitively.
I hate it when people like spout empathy in a secular way. I'm not even complaining about it because it's actually really entertaining for me. But like, it's not right. You can't engage with empathy through rationale and logic because it's counterintuitive to that. Logic is counterintuitive to empathy, unfortunately. I mean, they try to logicize. They try, if you treat better, people will just treat you better. It's simple logic. No, it's not, because that's not true. Like, there's plenty of times when you treat people good and people treat you horribly. You know, there's plenty of times. In fact, there's more times than not when your kindness is not rewarded.
Yeah.
So people have to stop treating empathy like it's a logical thing. That's fucking retarded. Logic isn't given. Logic, you can't take it. I mean, empathy isn't a given. You can't take empathy for granted. Empathy isn't granted to smart people. Empathy is granted to brave people, strong people. There's a difference between being smart and being strong. Being smart is not always being strong. And being strong isn't always being smart.
Once again, a Renaissance man. And as we said it before we started recording, a woman who's a Renaissance man isn't a Renaissance person. She's still a Renaissance man.
That reminds me of another quote that I made up.
Go on.
I think I made it up, but I'm sure like plenty of smarter men throughout history have said this because I never heard it from anyone. But I say, an undisciplined woman is a danger to herself. An undisciplined man is a danger to society. And both are equally bad.
Very poignant.
I mean, do you agree or disagree?
I do agree.
Yeah. So, and you know what? I thought women and both men would take offense to that. But like when I said that, like,
No, I think it's actually a well-balanced statement that flatters both groups.
But it also
You're flattering both of them.
and it offends both of them at the same time. I think,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like, well, but it's the truth, you know, because it's true. You know, like an undisciplined man is like a fucking ape running wild, whereas an undisciplined woman is like this fucking self-destructive bomb. It's like you just got to get away from them. Like, do you know any undisciplined women?
Almost every single woman I know is undisciplined. I only know undisciplined women.
But you don't know that many undisciplined men.
I know a bunch, but they're usually ineffectual.
You do not know. You know why? Because undisciplined men are almost an endangered species.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting.
Undisciplined. Most men, myself included, have probably gotten their metaphorical balls cut off.
Yeah, I feel that way all the time. I feel ineffectual.
But at the same time, like I try to look at
Impotent.
I try to take advantage of that. The fact that the impotence of modern men, the way I take advantage of it is I could lean more now into the universality of humankind. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not really focused on what man lost. Now I'm focused on what humanity gained. And I'm not talking about trans rights because to me that's just reinforcing the old ways and just you're just subverting the subversion. That's fucking retarded. You know, it doesn't work. I'm sorry, it doesn't. You know what's funny? This is what this is what I would tell a trans person. I bet you if we had the technology to just completely change our body to whatever we wanted, you wouldn't give a fuck about being a woman or a man anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially because so many of those kinds of trans women are just nerds who are lost, who are disembodied. They've disassociated through using the internet too much. It's the equivalent of a tremendous ketamine addiction.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they're deep in their serial experiments lane bit. And no, they would probably be happier as a genderless creation of science.
I mean, would you be happy in that world where, like, let's say every single human,
Yes.
like, let's say you meet someone you're digging,
Yeah.
like he talks to you, and then you'd be like, man, if you were a chick, I would fuck you. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then snaps their fingers, and then they have the tech, and you have the tech to do the same. And then they just turn into like a hot Latina, saucy, and you're like, I'm not really feeling that. And then they turn into a hot Guyanese woman instead. And they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This is what I'm talking. Would you be into that world?
Oh, I sure would. I'm sure I would.
But then
If
it's
I
like,
could just fuck men, but they all have been technologically altered into hot women, yes.
So here's a thought experiment, and I don't want
Yes.
you to think of it in right answers or wrong answers, because I think there is no right or wrong answer in this question. But in that world, what do you think is the true defining? What do you think people would use to like define themselves as individuals? Because I know they would embrace that world. I know if you're not retarded, you would be able to make your way through a world where you could. Yo, you're telling me I could grow a vagina, like a hot pussy
Yeah.
and a top body? You could tell me I could be a fat ass dude with like a 9-inch dick? Like, yeah, like, you know, I would do all of it. You know, like if you could do all that, yeah. But what do you think would be the thing that people would lean towards? Because I think there's a few
They
different
probably
answers.
lean towards an exaggeration of themselves with their imperfections removed, or things they perceive as imperfections.
Oh, like this is the real me.
yeah, the real me just has a sharper jaw and is taller and has a larger dick. Or is a woman with larger breasts and ass, or a narrower waist, and she's perpetually thin.
No,
As
I mean,
thin as she
like,
was as a teen.
oh, so at that point, I think it would be like, you know what I think it would be? It would be like when people get into a relationship in that world, it would be like, show me your ugliest self, and they show it to
Yeah.
you. It's like, now show me your hottest self. So they show it to you.
Yeah,
Now show me something
yeah.
in between. They'll play those games with each other. That would be
Oh
dating.
yeah,
That's
you're
what
right.
dating
That's,
would be.
and would
You
be
know?
this complex social game swirling around.
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's like, show me. Okay, now show me your ugly self again. And then
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. Yeah, that would be fun.
You would.
And it's like, all right, now show me Christopher Walken. It's like, who? It's like, oh, you don't know the movie. Here, let me brainstorm it to you real quick. And it's like,
Yeah.
that'll be a 4-dimensional life.
Mm.
Fuck. This is what I think we're heading towards. I mean, at that point, like, could you really blame the people who would marry a robot?
I wouldn't. All these things do feel like it's deterring away from. Well, it's a huge change from what people traditionally were.
I mean, I did
And
say
a change from traditional.
there's pitfalls to all this shit. I'm like,
Yes.
listen, if you want to embrace individuality, you got to be okay with hierarchies. And apparently we're not okay with hierarchies.
Not in this society, not in America.
Not in any society, apparently.
No, because
ca-
we are picking it up from America. There's still places where you have it, such as India.
and when you
I'm sorry,
take
man, I gotta
and when
take
you
it back.
all right. I just wrote something lit.
Yeah, same.
I was like, well, this guy was like, I feel most individualists don't take issue with hierarchies. It's the collectivists that do. And I said, collectivists only collectivize because they think it's an easier path towards individual actualization, particularly the people who approach it from a political context. They fail because true collectivism is not political, it's spiritual.
Very potent. I don't know. You're right about us, society shifting to a more spiritual focus. It seems inevitable within the 21st century.
What other choice do we have? Can I borrow some tobacco?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right.
Borrow as much as you want. Take
We're gonna
more.
we're gonna close it up with
more.
Carmen's tobacco / my weed joint, and we're gonna have some closing statements. First of all, we gotta look back.
That,
at,
by the way, is Cherokee Black.
Good.
Which is
I like Cherokee.
It still has a Native American chief on the bag,
Look.
which is amazing.
I like the color Cherokee, and I like black people, so this will
Yeah.
work out great.
Oh, Nosferatu, by the way, they said gypsy in the movie. They did not say Romani. And they showed them as just like these dirty, dark, weird foreigners.
Did you ever see Peaky Blinders?
No, I haven't. I know of it.
Okay.
Why, though? Go on.
Oh, because Peaky Blinders is literally about fucking gypsies.
Well, aren't they Irish travelers?
What?
They're Irish travelers, not Romani.
No, they were Romani.
They're Romani.
No,
They're
no.
from India originally.
No, but that's not. Oh, well, you wouldn't know that from the first pilot. The pilot episode features like just a bunch of gangsters, right?
Yeah.
So this takes place, I think, like
1920s?
yeah, right after
World War One.
yeah. So they were like They were getting into the booze business. That's where they made their enterprising. And the first season was all about boozing around in London because that's where all the business was. But towards the later seasons, the prohibition happens, and that's where all these London gangsters were able to create importing deals with the Americans because they needed booze. Well, the cities did. And this was actually a very good move because this allowed the London gangsters to elevate to higher American international business status because, like the boozers that the international parties dealt with and during the Prohibition era weren't like hillbillies. They were, like dudes in Europe. It's like we got the fine European stuff. If you went to the speakeasies, it's like the rich people in the speakeasies wanted like the European shit. Whereas like the hillbillies were dealt with like the poor people and they dealt with like bootlegging and moonshining and all that shit. So yeah, Peaky Blinders, you'd like it. It was all about gypsies, but gypsies throughout historical context. And the only thing I didn't like is like I think Peaky Blinders got too ambitious because they got into what's his name?
Cillian Murphy?
No, who was the proto-Nazi in
Oswald.
Oswald, yeah.
Mosley.
Yeah, Oswald Mosley. Yeah, I was like, this is no, like, come on, like you guys.
This isn't what it's about. This is trying to make it relevant by connecting it to a British fascist who ended up being anti-Hitler anyway. So what's your complaint?
They were basically pulling a Fast and the Furious.
Yeah,
like like Fast and the Furious started awesome, and then it turned.
It turned great. Then it went downhill. But I like Fast and Furious becoming a working class, multi-ethnic James Bond.
All right, my problem.
I haven't seen Fast 10, Fast 9 I don't like.
My problem with both of them is they are both turning into franchises that could easily cross universes.
Yeah. They become superhero stories.
Yeah. Do you like that?
I prefer this to actual superhero movies where it starts off as a vaguely grounded criminal story and then it just keeps escalating. It feels like the power scaling in MCU films is too much, whereas something like Fast and Furious, the power scaling isn't too bad. Does that make sense? Both are shonen stories, but the MCU has too much laser beam. I mean, already there's too much. Latest Fast and Furious movies have gone too far.
No, let's be on. All right.
Go on.
No, I agree. I hear everything you're saying, and there's nothing.
But I agree that it abandoned what it originally was. What it originally was abandoned.
Well,
more grounded story was abandoned for a silly superhero story. I agree.
But there's one thing that I disagree with nothing that you say, but there's one thing that I think we have to consider here.
What's that?
The real factor that offends us about these things, all these franchises, and like the cardinal sin is when they violate death of a character. Is when they do things like, see, I don't care how.
Yeah, bringing back Sun Kang I hated that. He looks so old now.
I'm saying, like, let's say you up the scales to like whatever grandiose degree you want, but when you start bringing back dead characters, that upscaling becomes meaningless.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is the point of any of this upscaling if there's no stakes? Like, you're telling me the characters that died and like all
can just come back to life. It's one thing when it's when it's a villain becoming a hero. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like Jason Statham.
That's the hero's journey.
That's fine. That's like Gilgamesh and Enkidu fighting, or like Vegeta and Goku fighting.
But you bring back Han? Like, come on, that's fucking stupid. Like, I love Han as a character, but
yeah,
he looks. Dude.
Han looks so fucking old now. Bringing him back, he looks so old. It's awful. I prefer him when he was young and beautiful.
I just hate what they did. Like, you shouldn't have. I mean,
and he should have died with his Jewess girlfriend.
They should have and they should have like let him. They should have let the whole Jason Statham story play out, like where he killed. That's great. That's awesome.
I agree.
Get that. But to bring Han back, like, fuck you, dude. That was disrespectful.
I agree.
Disrespectful to the story.
Yeah, I agree.
Han was good dead. Han was a good dead character. He was a great dead character. He was the best dead character. But then when you bring him back, it's like, I don't give a fuck about this geriatric Korean man.
Yeah.
You know, like
The Rock leaving Fast and Furious was terrible. All of the guys negotiating so they wouldn't get beat up in their contracts is terrible. But
and Letty.
yeah,
You know, like Letty, you know, like you can't kill that bitch and you can't kill her off
she's
screen.
the only character that's brought back that feels warranted because her and Vin Diesel actually do have good chemistry. It's very stupid that she would die and
Actually,
come back.
you're right. That was like the one
one time it was okay.
Because they get the telenovela thing.
Also because it takes them like 2 movies to get back together.
I'm sorry, but Han is not telenovela.
I agree.
He is not telenovela material. Letty is telenovela material. Like, you could
What
bring that
Vin
bitch-
Diesel saying to her, Dominic Toretto, you can't tell someone they love you, is a really impactful line. And all the telenovela drama about her being an amnesiac totally works out.
Yeah.
Because
That's good.
both of them sell that emotionally.
But bringing Han was a waste. That whole story, and they didn't even bring Gal Gadot back. You know, like that was that was a waste. They just liked working with him. That's what that Vin Diesel
Gal
was like,
Gadot and Han.
Yo, Han, I gotta have you in the next movie, bro. It's like, but Vin, I'm dead. Like, how are you gonna bring me back, man? It's not gonna work. It's like, yo, don't worry, bro. Listen, I got it. All right.
Both of those voices are great, by the way. Chris, you're a great impressionist of voices.
Nah, I'm not. I'm getting.
You're a good one. I know so few people that are good at doing voices that you're very good.
You know what I heard? And this is actually from Sam Hyde. Sam Hyde said, I hate quoting Sam Hyde, but he was like, you got to love the characters to impersonate them well. And, you know, usually people like impersonate really well, like hating on people. But you could tell, like, the only way you could do it that good is if you, like, if a part of you loves them, you know? You have to. That's the only way.
Yeah.
And I love Vin Diesel. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
That line. Oh, so many great lines. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. It's such a great line.
That whole story segment was so good. He was like, and he beat her with a wrench, like to death. Like, I was like, what?
You know, Fast and Furious is the only movie I can think of where a character has a baby mama, which is so common in America. But it's the only movie I can think of where there's a baby mama situation.
You know what? What? It's not. I mean, I don't hate it. It's just, it's sad that the dialogue in one was the best. There was nothing better than that. It's like, and then the cues, it was just one was just too good. It's like, I don't remember that whole scene, but the lines and the words just stick out, and they stab me. Like when he's like, how's the tuna here? You know, like I'm like, what the fuck? And like she serves him the tuna sandwich, and he's like, why did you get a fat burger, faggot? And I'm like, what the fuck? And you hear the song queuing up, like, watch your back, watch your back, watch your back. And he's like, punches him, like, what the fuck? This is sick. This is about cars? What? And you know what? This was also after movies like Days of like the racing movies were nothing new. Jackie Chan had a racing movie. Tom Cruise
It's been
had
a long while since a racing movie, though.
Yeah, Fast and the Furious filled up.
It came out the same time as 60 Seconds. Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh man,
What?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a sick one. Yeah. Gone in 60 seconds. Holy shit.
But it just kept going.
But Fast and the Furious one was a watershed moment.
Yeah.
Because
do you know why the titles are so weird?
Why?
There's a film from the 1950s or 60s about street racing called The Fast and the Furious, made by Roger Corman. But it's just like white guys in like 60s like rayon like sweater vests racing hot rods.
That's awesome.
But
classy.
because yeah,
Is that, I bet they just like, you want to get a Starbucks after this?
But Vin Diesel, long before Starbucks,
no. So
they
you wanna
were
go to
at
a
the
cafe?
diner.
Yeah,
No,
diner.
not cafe, the diner, the malt shop.
Oh, like American Graffiti shit.
Yeah, it's American Graffiti movie.
Okay, like Hot Rods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And Roger Corman, the producer of that movie, he lived until 100. So in like 1999 or 2000,
He got to see Fast.
yeah, no, he also said, you can't use that name. I'm going to sue you. But he had like a contractual agreement.
Motherfucker,
He was like 80 years old and said, no, you have to pay me a little
nah,
slice.
you're dead, motherfucker. How about this? How about we just kill you? Like,
No. So it couldn't be the Fast and Furious 2. They have to keep coming up with different names to avoid the contract that he had on them.
Until he finally died and they finally called it.
No, they still can't due to his estate.
Oh my god.
So that's why they only have bizarre names like Fast 5, Furious 6. The Fate of the Furious for Fast and Furious 8 is such a great name.
Hobbs and Shaw.
X10 or whatever. Hobbs and Shaw is a spin-off, so that has a reason not to
saw
have
that?
the name. Yeah, I like Hobbs and Shaw. I own a commemorative glass from the movie.
All right, so I'm not talking about how you would feel about it, but I want to ask, like, if you would see it or not, like, pay money in theaters, maybe on premiere day.
Yeah.
What if there was like a Joker X Toretto movie?
Oh, I would certainly watch that if it was way more. If it was not a Joker movie, but it was a Fast and Furious movie. If it was a Fast and Furious movie and not a
what studio?
Sorry. If it was a Joker movie and not a Fast and Furious movie, I would not see it. If it was a Fast and Furious movie, I would see it.
What studio produces those movies, like the Fast movies? Is it
Universal?
Universal?
Yeah. Not DC, not Warner Brothers.
Okay, so how would you feel if in the next like Godzilla Kong movie, Dominic Toretto shows up?
I would love it. It would be my dream. You know, Vin Diesel is not a very charismatic man. He's not a very talented actor. He's not a handsome man. He is an intelligent man.
But dude, King Kong and all Dominic Toretto, and he's like, "Why are you doing this, Dominic Toretto? Why are you going up against Abe?" He's like, "I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my family.
Yeah,
I'm doing it for my family." And he's got the cross, the crucifix on.
Yeah,
he has to kiss it. I mean, there's also, Universal Studios. You know what I like about Universal Studios?
What's that?
You never see like the MK Ultra, Majestic 12, fucking Illuminati, Jew, Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick, like level, like shit. It's always like, I feel like Universal Studios, they're not embedded in, I mean, they have to submit to the occult, obviously, because they run it, but like, they don't like live for that. They don't strive for that. I think they strive to make movies,
Yeah.
I think like even if the I feel like the Illuminati is like, we'll let Universal Studios live. Mm-hmm. But Universal Studios is the type to be like, thank God they let us live so we could keep making movies, And every once in a while, the Illuminati is like telling Universal Studios, you better make the next cyborg hero a woman, a white woman, this age group. Get Christina Aguilera or something, I don't know.
Christina Aguilera, she's so old. But everyone's so old now because of an aging society.
Yeah, I got to show you some music after we wrap this podcast episode up.
I'd love to hear it or see it.
I don't know if you're going to love it.
I probably won't, but I might like it.
Well, I mean, whether you like the quality of the music is irrelevant. I think you're not going to like the content of it.
Why is that?
Because they're music that was written like years ago, like at least a decade ago. But they reference the year 2025 and how bad things are going to happen.
It's not the year 2525, is it?
2025.
Okay. Zagreb and Zabler or something like that. A song from the 70s?
There was a band called Satan.
Oh, no, it's not then.
From Britain, like the UK, a band called Satan, and they wrote a song called 2025. All right, all you listeners out there, if you've stuck with us this far, there's a band called Satan, and they wrote a song called 2025. Not in numerical form like the words 2025. And shit happens in the year 2025. Apparently, holy men and common men will fly in the year 2025. But
the Zager and Evans song from 1969. Or is it a cover of In the Year 2525?
No, it's the year 2025. The lyrics
2025.
2025, yeah. It's called, the song is called 2025 by Satan. And it's like, it says, and holy men and common men and common men will fly, and holy men on golden wings will fly, and or something like everyone will die in 2025. And there's also another song by Head P called something else, and but it also referenced, it all started in the year 2025, and they mentioned the quarantine, and they mentioned CEOs and all this shit. I can't wait for you to listen to it. I think you'll be intrigued.
I will be.
The thing is, like, I don't know why it's like, because you're the skeptic, and also because I'm not a skeptic, but I am skeptical. But you are a skeptic by nature.
That's true. I am. You're right.
Like, you are literally a skeptic. I am a skeptical non-skeptic, you know?
Yeah, it is just how I grew up, or something inherent to my nature.
So it's
or
like,
both.
and I was once a skeptic. You know, there was a point where I was a pure skeptic until I went through some psychosis, and now I became something a little other than skeptic, you know? But I need skepticism, you know, like, I shouldn't, and that's probably in itself demonic to say I need skepticism. It's probably getting me further from God, but fuck it. You know, I don't mind keeping some distance from God. It's okay. God put me in this distance body for a reason. God put me here to be distanced from God, right? Yes. I put myself as God into this body to be distanced from myself as God, so I should be distanced from proverbial God, at least to some degree. Right, Moshi? We're both distanced from God. He agrees.
Yes.
And this is why, like, I think I can't join the church. I can't. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to all you Christians. I'm sorry to all you Catholics and Christians who can sense my profound spiritual energy levels. I can't join you. I can't be a part of that congregation. I'm sorry. Right. Carmen, can you forgive me for not joining the white man's religion? Like,
I'm fine with it.
But at least, to be fair, I don't identify as a Buddhist either, or one of these like Jamaican voodoo or Haitian
Rastafarians
voodoo, or Haitian
voodoo. Santeria.
Yeah, or the Kemet Egyptian. I don't identify. I identify as a nothing student.
Yeah,
like I just want to learn about all the different practices, you know, because they all that's how I know I'm a skeptic, you know, because like they all make me feel good and they all make me feel really bad. So it's like, how can I really call myself any one of these things, you know? I see value in all of them. I see evil in all of them. I'm like, you see evil in Christianity, right? And good in Christianity.
Mostly good.
But you also see opportunity.
I mostly see good in most religions.
But you also see
except
opportunity.
for like pagan religions.
But you've seen evil in all of them too, right?
More so in some than others. But yes.
Oh, like what? Like Judaism?
No, not Judaism.
Islam.
No, not even Islam. Though Islam a little bit, but not Islam as
Christianity?
Much. No, like older pagan traditions.
Oh, like human sacrifice.
Yeah, like Mesoamerican Hellenism of the Greeks and Romans.
You know, it was funny. I recently saw this meme. It's like, oh, what do you have against Coke? Suddenly you don't like Mesoamerican culture. Like, what? You're against the Incans? Like, why are you so racist? Like, the fuck is wrong with you, uncultured piece of shit?
Yeah.
you don't like the grace of Quetzalcoatl? Like, you know, like you don't like South American medicine? I mean, I don't mind cocaine. Like, the thing is,
I
it's
enjoy
like
cocaine a lot.
Yeah, I used to think cocaine was evil, but then I realized like it's not.
It makes people incredibly annoying. I think they can really ruin their lives with it.
You know what I think is evil?
Heroin?
No, I don't think any drug. I don't even think like, because heroin comes from opium, and I don't think opium is evil either. I think like fucking children is evil. I think
bold stance you're taking.
No, I'm serious. Like, cause like that's. It's like when you do these drugs, like as an elite. I'm not talking about like laymen here. Like this is none of us. This is because like I can only imagine what the lives of these people are like. And it's not just Americans. It's not just Europeans. It's not just black people in Africa, like, you know, in the Middle East or Asia. Like, this is anyone who has the resources to literally buy people, and this is a lot more people than you think in this world. And like, when you're living as one of these people and you put drugs into the picture, it's like, for the layman, it's like they can't, you know, like, all they can do is try to survive. Whereas for these people, it's like, when they get on heroin, when they get on mescaline, when they get on this shit, when they get on psilocybin, like, they're not just thinking like, oh wow, you know, like, all the bad things that happened to me are actually leading up to like forgiveness and all this shit. For them, it's like, I could do whatever I want right now. I could do whatever I want. And don't get me wrong, for some of these billionaires who do like acid or shrooms, they're like, I could just give $1 million to this charity and there's not a damn thing anyone can say about it or do about it. And they do it. For other millionaires, it's like, I could probably arrange like a 14-year-old girl to show up right now and I could do unspeakable things to this person, you know, like, and it goes both ways. And this is why, like, you know, I don't even at this point care about drugs. It's just what the drugs lead you to do, you know, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's just, you see patterns, but even with alcohol, like in the native population, like there's all these memes about how Native Americans, like when you give them,
Well, they're just uniquely vulnerable to it.
well, that's anybody. Well, it's a combination of things.
They're just
like,
so not used to drinking in their
you
history.
you take away their native land as far as back as they can remember, and you re-educate them to make them only speak your language and make them forget their own native language, forget their own rituals, and give them alcohol. Yeah, they're gonna be fucked up. They're gonna be fucked up and say, oh, also you can buy guns, get a Winchester, you know, like,
Which often worked in their advantage. I mean, they at Custer's last stand, the Native Americans had more advanced firearms than Custer's army because they mail ordered Winchesters.
because yeah, I mean, to be honest, the American Revolutionary War wasn't that different.
Yeah, go on.
No, I mean, they had. Well, this is actually. I don't think it's controversial. There were. I mean, everyone.
No one cares about anything related to the revolution anymore. The revolution barely gets talked about.
No, there were international weapons manufacturers who were supplying weapons to like literally both sides of every single conflict.
Yeah,
And like particularly in Western Europe, you know. And well, first of all, the reason why I know about this is because the reason why I care about it, I should say, is because I respect the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think war profiteering is ethical, but if you ask me, like, what position do you want to play in a war? Do you want to play against the good guys? Do you want to play against the bad guys? What do you want to do? And I say, I want to be the merchant class. I want to be the Jews. I want to sell the guns to both sides. The proverbial Jews. I don't mean literally, by the way. How do you feel about that thought? Like you don't have to sell guns to benefit from both sides to a war.
you don't. You're right.
Do you know how to trade in the stock market?
No, I don't.
Can I teach you?
I would love to learn because it's something I really ought to learn. I have the intelligence.
Do you have
for
a bank account?
Yes, I do have a bank account.
Do you have like internet access? I mean,
Yes.
Is it like because I don't know. Some of my friends really do have like small town bank accounts. It's like, oh yeah, I'm from this state and I
No, I have Ally Bank.
Because some people have like, yeah, you know, like I personally I have a Canadian, I have TD Bank. But it's like, yeah, if you know because it's all connected now, so it's like, well, actually that also changed a lot of investment and trading. It's like it was now an asshole like me could literally get like a brokerage account to just like allow me to share and trade my own portfolio like as I see fit. And yeah, I'll show you how to do it. It's actually a lot like, you ever play like you ever work the economy in any MMO game?
No, I never have in an MMO game.
All right.
But I know that it's similar to that.
All right, but it's actually, you know what? It's a really short learning curve, honestly.
I believe it I just hate MMOs, so I never played them and I never learned that way.
All right. But what? Okay. You know what? I think this will be good for you because this will help you in like everything else, like with Twitter and social media. The most successful social media people are also like into like investing in like crypto and shit.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I
not
don't know.
surprised.
Like crypto is like bullshit. I would. The thing is, like, what I like to do is I like to teach people the game mechanics. Like, here's how you play the game, and how you play the game is like it's up to you. But I usually like to do. It's really a game. It is a game. Like you learn the rules. You see, like it's like an MMO. You know, it's like online gambling almost, or like fantasy football. Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap the episode up. But you got any closing statements?
Nah, I don't have anything particular tonight.
All right, my closing
Oh,
statement.
wait. Give every single January 6th patriot a tenured college professorship. The QAnon shaman should be teaching in Harvard University. That's my closing statement.
All right, my closing statement is I don't know if this is fact, but there's a good chance that Elon Musk is the Antichrist.
Or Mr. Beast. Probably Elon Musk.
Or both.
The anti-cringeist.
The Antichrist.
Good night, guys.